right, guys. I think Brion sent this to me because he came in here and he's like, "You're welcome, Papa Gut." So thank you. Apparently, Sniperwolf had a public meltdown recently, and this is a Nerd City video talking about it. I'm curious, so that's what we're gonna do. We haven't talked about Sniperwolf in a while. I assume she disappeared. Is she doing well? I mean, I don't really care. It's like whatever. Like she's basically just TikTok personified at this point. Oh, she's doing fine.
Excuse me.
I guess good for her. She's still pulling like 500K views for videos. I wish. Anyway, thank you so much for the small gut from D's and Newts. Very cool name. Let's get this party started.
Sniperwolf attacks women online who make her feel jealous. She also attacks them in person.
I attack women online just for fun.
When they're just minding their own business. Sniperwolf calls herself a psychopath. She has homicidal fantasies.
Fantasies of me like beating the shit out of them or like killing them, and they'll just like feel so good. It gets me going.
Other celebrities who've been penned in with her at an event have seen her suddenly snap into a violent rage with no warning.
Oh, okay. Is this real?
There's a big crazy story involving Sniperwolf that you probably haven't heard about.
Oh no, I don't think I have.
Come beneath the wigs and the musty scalp, into the mind of a malignant narcissist.
This is so weird. This energy is throwing me off, dude. Holy moly.
And learn what's real and what's fake in the spiraling power of projection built by the world's favorite greasy-haired YouTuber.
Is that me? No, I don't have any hair.
Tonight's the night.
Whoa! Your favorite greasy hair YouTuber. She got some greasy.
Oh, so I didn't even know that was part of the lore, that she would call herself a greasy hair YouTuber. Okay.
Hair. Oh!
This is just Pearly Things if she decided to play video games instead.
Oh no! Ew! Mommy said you have to take a shower. I think I went a month without showering before. That was really cool.
Oh, this is probably something that like a lot of like gross guys would find like they'd be really into this. You better take a shower. I haven't showered. I'm so stinky right now. Wow, incredible.
Like,
not me, of course. Not me. I would never. That would be weird as hell.
Don't take a shower. Now that I think about it, I haven't showered in what seems to be like weeks. Are you serious?
What? There's no way. I mean, like, listen, sometimes I go a day without showering. Like, I didn't shower yesterday. But how do you go weeks without showering? That's wild.
I'd rather not shower for 3 months. Oh, no, she did not.
There's no way this is true. This is weird. This is some kind of fetish. This can't be real.
You don't shower and you smell. I cannot wash my own hair. You know, if you're not gonna wash your hair, just cut the whole thing off. All your nasty, crusty, dandruff, flaky, greasy hair particles. Some nasty, greasy hair YouTuber. This just looks like a big old bald spot. Strands of hair struggling to cover that bald spot. Now, I could almost see your brain. If there was one. Oh, it's nasty. Why am I still getting...
It sounds like something I would like, no offense. Listen. You guys don't have to be so mean to me.
Big hate.
At a major gaming event, Sniperwolf assaulted a woman who wasn't even looking in her direction.
Who told you?
If you've been around esports or...
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna hit somebody, at least hit them while they're looking at you. You know what I mean? Do the cordial thing. Am I right?
YouTube drama for a while, you might remember this event because this was a big breakout moment for...
I love watching things I have no idea about. It's my favorite pastime.
Ninja.
This is a Fortnite OG, Tyler Blevins.
I know this guy. I think his name Luke. I remember him. He came into one of my streams a while back and he gave me money. He seems like a nice guy because he gave me money. And I kind of like his style being XQC, but more intelligible.
Dyes his hair blue, Epic Games and Fortnite Blevins moment.
Who's this guy with the hair? What's that? What's the deal there?
Also joining us today, Sniperwolf.
And Sniperwolf embarrassed herself in more ways than one. Billed as the pro gamer in a pro-amateur duo, Sniperwolf was outplayed by everyone on the stage that day, including...
Damn. That's rough, man. Women be tripping. I wonder if part of it was nerves. I feel like I wouldn't do very well. You know, I feel like I just wouldn't do very well in some kind of a competition as a pro. I'm also not good at video games. And yet, that's what I do, baby. That's what I do. Brother.
Including the amateur playing with a bucket on his head. All said and done, her team finished tied for dead last with 0 points.
Wow. So it's basically second to last? That's terrible.
She got eliminated early in all 3 rounds of the tournament.
Damn. Was she like really bad or was she just outclassed by everybody else because they were better? Was Pokimane another person? Is she actually good at video games? Can women be good at video games? I don't know. Thank you so much, Jimmy G, for the small guy, brother. I appreciate that.
In fact, she turned in such a poor performance that she barely appears on screen at all in the entire 3.5-hour broadcast. Blink and you would...
Damn. Nick Merckx, though. He was there. You know? There's something about hating LGBTQ people that makes you good at video that makes you good at video games. I, of course, am terrible at video games, which means I'm a good person. Okay.
Messer.
Sniperwolf, hello.
She was like playing in the competition, but she was the very first person to die. I didn't see this, but people said that
Oh, it was Fortnite? Fortnite's kind of cringe, dude. I can't believe it.
she died within like a few seconds.
What many who were there did
Yeah,
witness.
Sometimes I don't last more than a few seconds either. Which, by the way, I don't really understand why ladies get upset when you don't last more than like a minute. Okay? Because you're sitting there thinking like, oh, what about my satisfaction? I understand that. Okay? But think about it this way. When you're thinking about it like, oh, well, I didn't get my berry. I didn't get my walnut. Okay? A little bit selfish in my opinion. Here's how I like to look at it. Okay? If I could not last more than a minute sliding down that water slide, that means that you must be a good water park. You must be Typhoon Lagoon. Right? Because I couldn't last. So think about it like that. That's how I would look at it. It's a more positive perspective, you know? And stop being so selfish. I'm sorry. Okay? I'm sorry. Please.
Off camera was Sniperwolf getting involved in altercations. The first of which was a screaming match with her partner Evan.
He can't play for her live.
When I don't get my way, I scream, and I scream really loud.
Sniperwolf
Damn, kind of like a man. What are you doing, girl?
and the man who now claims to have been playing for her at home were observed to be furious with each other immediately after her last place.
Is that a fact, or is he saying that just to besmirch her? Either way, who really? I mean, did anybody look at Sniperwolf and go like, "Whoa"? Like, I don't know. Like, who gives a shit? I guess. Like, to me, it's like everything. I feel like everything on the internet, at least back then, like even 10 years ago, was like all this weird ass performance. Everybody was so weird. I think it's so bizarre and performative, you know. I mean, it's still not the right thing to do, but I'm just saying.
It's finish.
Killing her.
For doing so badly in Fortnite.
Yeah, I think that's what my was.
Fuck is assy.
He was probably like coaching her to like be good at that, and he left.
I hate being alone. I don't like going anywhere without Sausage or my mom or somebody. I know I have to be with one of them, preferably Sausage.
I wonder, and I don't mean this to be rude, because she's a nice looking person, but also like, and I'm not like super attractive. That's not my claim here, but she's not very good looking. But she's like that girl who hangs out with nerds in high school because comparatively she looks good. But then when you like do one of these, you're like, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, you got like 3 girls at a party or a club or something, and like there's like the 1 10 out of 10 girl, and then there's like the 2 like decent looking like 4 out of 10s, not even. And then you go, and then like she's standing in the middle, and you do one of these, and you block the other 2 out, and you're like, wow, Jesus looks like shit. It's like that comparative attractiveness. I don't know if that's a mean thing to say, because I'm ugly as dog shit, but I'm just saying. That's interesting. It's just, and she's not bad looking. But, you know, I think it's like she has a little bit of an attitude to her. You know what I mean? It's like you're not that good looking. You know what I'm saying, dude? Like you could be a real bitch if you look like Aubrey Plaza, because I'll let her fucking spit on me. You know what I'm saying? But Sniperwolf, it's all right. You know what I mean? It's like, okay. It's just something to think about. You know what I mean? That's just something I'm thinking. I'm thinking about it. Not that you have to think about it. I'm thinking about it.
Thing we forget about narcissistic folks is they don't like abandonment.
I have really bad separation anxiety.
Use their abandonment.
Is she legitimately narcissistic, or are we getting a little internet brained? Like, I miss the days where people were just dickheads. You know what I mean? Now everybody's like a fucking narcissist. Now all of a sudden we're all mental health experts calling everybody a narcissist. Why can't she just be a fucking bitch? You know what I mean? I don't know, man.
Issues to control them.
You gotta keep a kitty on edge.
Pretend to break up with her.
You gotta do a lot of things, you know?
You're the puppet master now.
He makes me inhale his poop. Who's the real psychopath
Okay.
here, the dude or the girl?
And unfortunately, this was not her only skirmish of the evening.
Everybody knows when you lose in an argument, all you gotta do is start screaming. I'm one of those.
Why is she? Here's my thing. Is this like I never watched her before, but why does she have like a fake ghetto accent on? Is that like a cool thing to do? Is to pretend to have like be a little ghetto? I don't know.
Lovely people that as soon as they get mad, they take out all their frustration. When I get mad, it's real quick. When I get mad, I get really mad.
After
Typical male behavior, am I right, guys?
failing to assault other internet celebrities within the game, she made up for it in real life. just like she always knew that she would.
I never had time to practice or go to events and compete, and not to mention I am a very bad sport. If I lose, like, I'll go apeshit or cry or attack people. I'll literally attack people.
Here's my thing. If I'm in like a public event and I lose, I would never attack somebody. If I'm in the privacy of my own home, I'm saying every single slur I can think of. It doesn't, you know what I mean? And like, that's not a good thing. I'm not proud of myself. It's a toxic behavior. But that's why I don't play competitive, difficult video games, because I know that I can't handle myself. I've always told the story about how I played League of Legends again, the phone version, and it made me so goddamn angry that my wife is like, she's like, delete the game. And I said, you're right. And I did. You know what I mean? That's part of growing up. Part of growing up is not necessarily, it's just sometimes learning when you got to disengage. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you shouldn't be a gamer if you're getting that angry. That's all I'm saying.
Get really, really competitive.
They thrive on winning. In fact, I'm not sure there is anything more important to a narcissist than winning. So when they fail at something...
Bro, I feel like she's just like a toxic bitch gamer, and everybody's like, now we're trying to make it, oh, she's a fucking diagnosed narcissist. It's like, all right, relax, man. She's just like, why can't people just suck now? Why can't people just be shit? Why can't people just be shitty? Why do we got to be narcissists? I just find that to be, it's just crazy to me. That's just me, my opinion.
You need to brace.
Like, that's a really intentional, and maybe it's because my wife, guys, ready for the meme? My wife's a behavioral specialist for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. I bring that up because, like, especially talking to her, like, people nowadays use like actual mental health language for everything when it's really not appropriate. Like, narcissism isn't just like, oh, you're selfish and you want to win, or you're a bitch. Narcissism is like those things quadrupled. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not just like ADHD. Well, it isn't just, oh, I struggle to pay attention. Like, ADHD is like hyper fixating on things. Like, my experience with like legitimate diagnosed ADHD is my wife is talking to me and I'm just thinking about another thing. I'm just hyper fixating on this. I can't, like, it's difficult for me to put my phone down sometimes. I'm not even realizing the behavior I'm engaging in. And it takes like a lot of, behavioral, we'll say like behavioral therapy, behavioral corrective, whatever, to like recognize it. Right. But then there's people that is like, oh, I sometimes I struggle. Oh, like autism. Now everybody has fucking autism on TikTok. It's that, like, oh, I struggle to socially interact. That turned into I have fucking autism. I don't know how the fuck that happened. You know what I mean? So I feel like sometimes we go a little too far, because I don't really think Sssniperwolf's a narcissist. She just seems like kind of a shitty person. You know what I'm saying? Because we've all been there, dude. We all like to win, no matter what.
Yourself, because you are likely going to see some behaviors you never dreamed you would see exhibited by a full-grown adult.
She played poorly and then attacked people.
Narcissistic rage is an explosive combination of hostility.
Are these people talking about Sssniperwolf, or are these people generally talking about people?
And anger.
And then you're cutting them into it. I'm just saying.
That comes about when a narcissist has their sense of self threatened. Essentially, the narcissist is having to face their own inferiority, which is something they are not able to do. They cannot.
I do that all the time when I look on the hub, because I cannot ever compete with those guys. That's just crazy, dude.
Accept the fact that
maybe I should stop looking at black bulls.
They're not perfect. The narcissist becomes aggressive in order to distract themselves, eliminate the source of the shame, or to blame the painful feelings on someone else.
Asshole killed me.
Narcissistic people are very
I just feel like a lot of that's typical video game behavior too. Like, anytime I've lost in a league game, it's never my fault. Upon reflection, it's probably exclusively my fault. You know what I mean? But
active.
How could you?
When they're frustrated.
Also, I think that part of this, not all of it, but part of this is her playing it up for attention. I'm not sitting here like trying to defend her. I don't think that she's a particularly good person, but I also don't think it's a particularly good thing to engage in like disproportionate labelings of things in any capacity. So like, I'm not saying like, oh, this content creator is terrible for this. I just, like, when I'm going to watch it, I'm going to call it out. Like, oh yeah, I think some of it's a little overinflated. That's just me. That's who I am. All right.
Frustrated when they're disappointed. Why? Because it means they're not perfect. It means they're not the grandiose ideal that they've created for themselves to protect themselves from that cauldron of shame that's always bubbling up.
I threw my headset off and then I went to go cry in the bathroom for a little bit. And then I
kind of based.
had to come back on stream and pretend like I was okay. Okay, I kind of overreacted.
Well, the fact that, like, no, not for nothing. My understanding, I'm not going to say I'm the most intelligente individual, for my Spanish fans, for the Hispanic ladies and men. Muy guapo, am I right? Gordito? Probably both. My understanding is that narcissists can't even admit when like they're wrong ever, right? Is that a thing? And so her going into an angry like rage and then breaking something and be like, "Oh, I overreacted." To me, that communicates that she knew she was in the wrong. She's just a poopy head.
The blue from the side hatch basically launches Sniperwolf and has to be restrained.
You want to know a recap of what happened?
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
tell me.
Basically,
Tell me. She named 6 witnesses of the assault. Oh shit.
they were like in a circle, and I was walking. I walked to the bathroom, and then when I was walking back,
They were jerking off in a circle. It's called a circle jerk.
I saw them. And they're like, "Hey, Azzy," and then I was like, "It's not just there." And I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Just be nice." They just walk over, and then I go in there, and I got really awkward, so I started like just telling an embarrassing story of myself, and
relatable.
she just like is looking at me. She's silent, and she's like angry, and then she like lunges at me, and I don't remember like exact details because it was just fucking terrifying.
What? So why would I'm so confused. Like, what did she do it for? You're just telling a story about yourself? That doesn't make sense.
Got in between and like pulled her off me, and then they took her back into the room, and then I was out there, and they were like, "What the f was that?" It was just like, it was so. Oh yeah, she was like, oh yeah, she screaming at me. She's like, a bunch of words I can't actually say on YouTube. But the one sentence I can say is she goes, "You fake your gameplay," and then charges towards me, swinging.
This is an Azzy-land only channel.
I'm so confused. What? I feel like we're missing something to that story. Nothing justifies an assault, but like, it's common when people with anger problems that they'll get like disproportionately angry. Like maybe their anger is justified, but their response is not even close to justified. So I'm like wondering like what is it that triggered her that we're leaving out of the story? Okay, it doesn't justify it. I'm just curious about it.
Channel from now on, Sniperwolf is no longer my best friend. Azzy-land is my best friend.
Leah had to be physically pulled off of Azra and was dragged away screaming and clawing.
Yes, this was me, the child with the anger issues, who would never back down from a fight.
And I scream really loud. You know that high-pitched scream that girls do? I'm not even gonna do it for you guys, just to spare you headphone users.
Jesus Christ, she's got a real fucking problem. That's how embarrassing. It's so interesting because like I remember when I was young, I would get angry too, and when I played with my friends, I would become like a little bit performatively angry because I thought it was funny, and they did too. And like, you know, Sniper was like my age, and it's like, at what point do you realize that like what you're doing is embarrassing? And you like, wow, she's 31, I'm 34. It's like, at what point do you go like, oh, you know what? Like this is an embarrassing way for me to portray myself. Because I imagine the anger is real, but then she flavors it up a little bit for attention. And it's like, you know, I mean, I don't know how old she was when she was doing it, but this is one of the problems with the internet too. Is that like that kind of behavior is just like, look at like I show Speed's behavior. He's a funny guy, but like the behavior he engages in is immature. He's young, so it's whatever. But obviously, if I fucking die. But obviously, as you get older, you know, things will change. I don't know.
Like, I hate you.
When a narcissist says something hurtful, or they recount how they said something hurtful in the past, saying it or as they're remembering that they said it and talking about it, you see, again, this sense of relief on their face. Kind of this subtle smile sometimes. Like even just the memory of it brings a little bit of joy.
But everybody heard about it. Everybody was like coming up to me all night saying like,
wow, you have anger issues. Why do you scream so much, especially when you can't win a level in a game? Do you have anger?
She got mad that she got last place and accused someone else of what they are. The one that actually does it, like when a person accuses. Okay, so you're saying that she was like cheating in the game, and then she would projected her cheating onto another person who beat her. Okay, see that makes sense. Like somebody made a comment and then she's like, "Are you fucking cheated? You're not." You know, okay, that makes sense. Like I said, that the anger is not justifiable, but there's usually a source for it, which is like what I'm always curious about. And like it felt like she didn't really explain it, so maybe there's something there that like you're just supposed to know, or maybe she said something that set her off, even if it's not like a huge thing that set her off. You know,
issues. Maybe I do have anger issues. Do you have a problem with that? Do you? I can't help my anger. Whenever I get mad at a game, I get really mad and I can't help it.
Maybe they can't help it. I'm telling you, obviously, they can. And if they couldn't, Mel,
Yeah, you can help it. And if you can't help it, then you need to not be engaging in whatever activity it is that's making you angry.
Never be as successful as they are. Or they'd be screaming in shareholder meetings. They'd be screaming at everyone. Sometimes they do, but they tend to scream at what they consider low-value targets.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That is disgusting.
The people who saw
that is fucking base. What are you talking about? I'm just kidding.
Never made a video about this, probably to like preserve their reputation as drama-free, and because that's not the kind of content that they normally make.
Okay.
Who told you? Now I need to know.
When people would find out about it secondhand,
she just guessed.
They would inquire about it, and Azzy would ask them please don't make a video about this.
Probably shouldn't mention it.
Man, I
She
feel
did
that.
not want the drama.
I mean,
I feel that. It could be it's a little bit of a distractor, a very mature response to have.
I don't want to comment on this.
But in those, sort of...
Because the internet can be just obnoxious, and all of a sudden you're doing like a back and forth. It turns into a whole fucking thing, yada, 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 yada. Who wants
upper
that?
social circles, it's been known for years that there is a prominent creator who has a screw loose in their head.
I mean, there was this one bitch who talked so much on me online. And then she came up to me, smiled, and tried to hug me. I'm like, you call me stupid and ugly, we throwing hands.
And women especially should stay away
Who is it that she's referring to?
from her.
The rest of the night, everybody made sure like she was on the opposite side of the room as me.
She gonna make me commit a crime. Bro, you gonna make me do something violent. These hands are rated E for everyone. I would've popped them right then and there. And as soon as you put your guard down, it's just like...
In the last episode of Nerdline, we saw how Sniperwolf was copying elements from Azzyland that had already proven to be popular.
What? I mean, listen, I don't really care. I mean, everybody in every sphere, copies each other in some capacity. Like in my sphere, everybody kind of talks about like a similar topic of interest or whatever. I don't give a shit about this. You know what I mean? Like, I don't care. I look at like Queso. The guy's very funny. And then you look at Los Pollos TV. Not as funny. But at the end of the day, they're two fat guys yelling, right? Was there some inspiration? Possibly, But I mean, like having an exaggerated, like, oh, like it's not exactly, the most, it's not exactly the most high effort, like, holy fuck, like you're stealing this. Like, I don't really care. Sometimes you're just kind of like looking at what works. To me, it's the same as if somebody decided that to make their content of like, oh, I'm going to read Reddit posts. And then someone else starts reading Reddit posts and you're like, hey, that's my thing. It's like, it's nothing. It's nobody's thing. It's not exactly like the most crazy thing. I just don't give a shit about it,
A piece of wood used to mix paint for 50 years.
Used to mix paint for 50 years.
Imagine how cool this would be. Like people like were a little more creative though, and they were like pink, blue, yellow, purple.
I mean, it would have been cooler if y'all used like brighter colors or something.
It's the same kind of content. She's just a liar, though. She's stealing everything and has been for a very long time.
The easiest examples to find, by simply looking at the dates and comparing them, are the hundreds of thumbnails and titles that Sniperwolf...
Oh shit, she's fucking like legit. It gets a little worse than I thought, though. I thought it was just like similar themes and shit. She sounds like she's watching other people's videos and just fucking making her own video. That's like the same thing. That's a little bizarre. I'm not gonna lie about that. Okay. This is weird. Wow. Okay.
Used after Azzyland.
It is astounding to see how many videos Sniperwolf has legitimately either titled the same exact way as Azzyland, or has just taken the same exact picture that Sniperwolf had.
People got called for a line. People who got called. What? This is this real?
Has legitimately.
What the fuck? Oh, this is. I thought it was just like kind of the same. What the fuck? Like I get talking about a similar topic, but she's got the same thumbnails and everything. That's a little too on the nose there.
Either titled the same.
What the? This is so funny.
Exact way as.
Jesus Christ. Okay, whatever. Do you, I guess.
Azzyland, or has just taken.
This is so on the fucking nose, dude. This is so crazy. Wow. I mean, I still don't like necessarily care because at the end of the day, what is it that they're doing? A surprised face to probably some low effort reaction. And by the way, I do like reactions. So I like to say that I do more commentary more, but like, I'm not like criticizing it. Get your bag. So it's not exactly the biggest thing. It's just funny and stupid.
In the same exact picture that Azzyland has used in her thumbnail.
But it also included some weird things, like potentially her Toronto accent and the exact dress that she wore for a house tour.
Why would she rip this off? Why would she steal this thing? It's a house tour or the red dress. Who cares? What are the chances, though?
It does make sense as to why she'd assault this girl now, because she's like fucking like I don't know. She's modeling herself after them, and I want you so I'm gonna steal your skin. I'm gonna be the new Azzyland. She should have just made herself Assy with 3 S's instead of Sniperwolf. Would have made more sense.
Honestly, it seems so intentional. She seems like she's gaslighting her audience into hating Azzyland.
Bro, what? They have the same mirror? They both did a house tour in the same outfit? This looks like the same.
Damn. The other girl looks a lot better than Sniper. I mean, that's inappropriate. That's an inappropriate comment. I don't need to be saying stuff like that. But I am still saying it.
Exact dress, dude.
Narcissist copy. Blatant copying, such as wearing the same clothes that you might wear, copying your work, copying.
I'm not convinced it's narcissism. but you know, I'm more convinced that it's like trying to be successful and like copying somebody else in some kind of like reality show-esque way.
Your ideas.
She literally copied the house tour as he did, and even wore the same outfit during the house tour, and even pointed out the same things in the house tour.
Damn, she's fucking stupid. You should have at least not done that.
Nice. I have a
Is this
lot.
Azzyland? Wow, she's very popular too. Traveled 1,000 miles. I guess she kind of quit. I mean, I guess you don't really need to. I wonder though. Oh, she has the creator credits in here. It's the only thing I wanted to see. Sniperwolf copied this Azzyland girl, but couldn't copy the fucking creator credits. You fucking idiot. What a moron. How are you going to steal everything else from her except for the good thing that she does, where she seems to be crediting the creator? Like, how do you fucking do that, you idiot? Like, how stupid do you have to be? This makes it so much funnier to me because I remember when Jack Films was calling her out. And, like, I'm not going to lie. I felt like he was a little too obsessed with her, making a whole fucking channel dedicated to her. But, like, he was calling her out. And the fundamental, like, the biggest part of the call out, in my opinion, and I think in most normal people's minds, was like, yo, credit the people you're reacting to. If she had came out and said, I'm hearing some criticism, I'm going to start crediting people, that would have been fine. But now knowing that she copied her entire fucking content strategy, we'll say, from this person, but so she's wearing the same dress as her in like a house tour. She's taking the same thumbnail. She's using the same, you know, everything. Thumbnails, topics in many instances. Why the fuck wouldn't you just credit like she's doing? Unless this is a new behavior from Azzyland after Sniperwolf got called out. But if it's not like a new, we'll take a look back to like here. If it's not a new behavior, let's see. Let's see. Was she always crediting people? Oh no, she wasn't. This is a new behavior from her. Actually, I wonder how new this behavior is.
Secrets Disney.
Yo, shut the fuck up. I wonder how new this behavior is from her crediting people. Oh, you know what? That's interesting. I think that this Azzy girl wasn't crediting people either. Yeah, it seems like it's a somewhat new behavior to credit people for her. Like we actually just looked at this one, which, you know, which is interesting. I mean, she's not as much of a rude person. Yeah, now she is crediting people. And these videos are like 9 months old or so. Although it seems like, how old was the Sniperwolf stuff? Yeah, okay, so she's at least doing it now. Let me see. Is Sniperwolf doing it now?
Excuse me, man.
Yeah, shut up.
Hello.
Hello. Still not fucking crediting. Her and Jack Films collabed, and he told her to start crediting people. That's fair. Why is she still not crediting people? I don't understand. Dude, she could have came off looking so good to most people if she just admitted that if she was just like, oh,
hello, friend.
I'm gonna start crediting people. Wow, that's crazy.
Y'all ever go to?
Shut the fuck up. Why are you not what a dumb move. What an idiot. Does she put it on the screen? Like, has she learned nothing? What did I just do? My For You page on here looks weird as hell.
Hello, friends.
Does it show it in the video? No, it doesn't look like it. Okay, whatever. I don't care anymore. It's time to move on, guys. It's time to move on.
That Azzy did. When I say same things, weird things that you wouldn't normally point out in a house tour.
Like this really weird example where Azzyland is talking about plants in her home, basically saying that, you know, she doesn't really take care of them. They end up being killed and dying. But then Sniperwolf,
you piece of shit,
goes on to say that they're luscious, well taken care of plants.
More plants that I'm killing. A luscious, well taken care of plant.
And
that's kind of funny.
Try to make it better, almost like out of spite.
It's the entitled person doesn't just feel special.
Oh my
they have
God.
to be more special than you.
Before they really knew each other, they both cosplayed as D.Va from Overwatch.
Well, that one's normal. Every fucking ethot cosplays as D.Va.
And you can see Azzyland got tagged in a post saying that, oh, Sniperwolf did the same cosplay and she's very complimentary and nice. And Sniperwolf, being, you know, the piece of shit she is, starts comparing herself and going in on Azzyland's appearance.
If I take...
Oh, does she? That's weird. Why would you do that?
Take those personality traits and...
I feel like when it comes to pick me, because this whole, like, the only issue I have with this video is it's like super inflated trying to call her a narcissist. I doubt that she's a narcissist. You'd have to have her sit down with like a legitimate mental health counselor to figure out like whatever behavior she's engaging in, if it isn't or isn't narcissism. And I really don't like the sensationalization of like social media that has to make things worse than they are, because they're already bad enough. Like it's already enough to call her like a selfish piece of shit. We don't have to call her like a diagnosed narcissist. That's like a very big, intense thing to diagnose somebody with, right? But what I was going to say, fuck, I just fucking lost my entire train of thought. God damn it. Oh, what's interesting though is that when it comes to like pick me type of girls, you know, like one of the guys, the non-lesbian kind, because the lesbian kind are normal. Butch lesbians being one of the guys is different, right? We already know that for a fact because they are one of the guys, right? When it comes to pick me girls though, there seems to be this like weird competition with like other women, where a lot of it centralizes around like breaking down another woman. That's what Sniperwolf seems to be doing, right?
Put them into me, I can become a better person, which would make me a better version of them because I'm different from them. That's just how my mind works, y'all.
It's just very strange.
She like stole her accent and shit too,
know,
the way she talks.
The Toronto way
Fucking
talking,
weirdo.
yeah.
Hey. True weirdo shit.
Sniperwolf even stole the way Azzy speaks. It's weird, dude.
It's getting a little weird in there. It's getting a little strange.
It's so weird.
Very odd indeed.
Which is strange, and you know, well, who cares? Sniperwolf does.
That whole narrative of Azzyland copying Sniperwolf stems from Sniperwolf herself.
This whole time, Sniperwolf has been running a nonstop smear campaign against Azzyland, confoundingly trying to convince fans that Azzy has been stealing from her.
Oh, really? Can you show me?
Much larger creator doing something extremely wrong and then claim that she's not copying, and also that the inverse is happening.
This is pretty much a synopsis of everything new that's come out. Sniperwolf thinks Azzy copies her, Azzy thinks Sniperwolf copies her, and Nerd City proves that Sniperwolf copies Azzy. But we'll get into it because it's pretty interesting. And
it actually
like, what an idiot. Why even make the claim that somebody else is copying you if you're copying somebody else? Like, I would just ignore it and just like move on. Why even respond to the other person unless you feel threatened by them? Which I'm assuming that she does feel threatened by them in some capacity.
Doesn't really matter because it's not their photos and it's not
common middle school mean girl shit. True.
really their video content anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Well, it does matter, Jack. In fact, it does matter.
It's just the worst kind of like egg-sucking, parasitic thief.
Sniperwolf has quite literally stolen every aspect of her career. I have not been this mad about someone in so long, and I'm so happy Nerd City put out this huge thing. He came out of retirement for this shit.
I look really pissed.
How old is this guy where he was retired?
Imagine having someone like Sniperwolf harassing you, coming at you every chance you get, sending her fans after you, imitating your voice, copying your thumbnails, copying your videos. How crazy that is. And
Damn.
Sniperwolf is
I still want to see that she's doing that. I don't doubt it. I'd just like to see like the actual proof of it. But like, why would you even respond to that? Like, why would Sniperwolf even do all that? Just steal her personality and just shut the fuck up about it. You know what I mean? That's the smart play. That's what I would do if I was stealing somebody's personality. I wouldn't talk about it. I would be like, oh, it's just a thing happening.
acting like the one who's being
Oh, what a coincidence.
copied.
Or you do like the virtue signal, right? This is what you do. When somebody calls you out for copying them, you go, oh, I wasn't copying them. I just liked them so much. I draw inspiration from them. And now you look like the other person looks like a bad guy because you're just like, oh, I really like you, man. I can't believe you're fucking with me. It's a fucking dickhead manipulation play, dude. That's the next level alpha brain that you have to engage in.
It's driving me crazy!
That's the alpha brain. Sniperwolf, be more manipulative, idiot. I think she's maybe kind of too dumb to be manipulative is the problem.
Azzy tell her side of the story for the first time left a lot of people wondering, like, why would anyone copy the content and clothes and speech pattern from someone who they don't even like? Plagiarism and hypocrisy have never been uncommon on YouTube. However, the skinwalking jumped out as a bit strange. And you might even say it was a bit spooky.
You've got to be kidding.
Spooky.
A few people in the comments were not surprised.
Like Hubie's Halloween. That was a good movie. Underrated, to be honest with you.
They mentioned that all of those behaviors are characteristics of NPD.
Especially how I talk is very often based off of other people. Everything that I do, every way that I act is through this purpose of making people impressed with me.
All right, listen, again, this whole narcissist angle is so weird because when it comes to like a narcissist in the real world engaging in behaviors like this, the 100% operating directive, and again, maybe she is narcissistic. I just think it's irresponsible to be like, basically this the heavy implication here is that she is a narcissistic person and that she deserves to be legitimately diagnosed, and maybe she is, and you know that if that happens, it happens. I just think it's irresponsible, generally speaking. But like, there's a motivation behind it is for like self-serving for narcissists in a different way, right? It's like they'll take on other people's characteristics to change who they are, and for whatever reason. Sniperwolf, there's at least a part of the motivation of just trying to be successful and popular. I just don't know if I would call it narcissistic or if I would call this the weird delusional, I guess you'd say, like focal point for money, you know, in the way that, like, you know, you have your Trisha Paytas, at least in the past, and other content creators basically enacting some kind of a VH1 reality show kind of a thing, if that makes sense. So
making people think I'm cool, making people admire me and stuff like that.
So a lot of us take in the identity of the people that we admire or envious of or jealous of.
Hold your horses on that one. You're telling me that the world's most self-obsessed people would actually be obsessed with somebody else? Oh, sure. Well, that explains it. Okay, moving on. No, obviously, some of that doesn't sound right. Let's bring it back to the Greek roots. Narcissus in mythology. This is where the name come from. Narcissus, narcissistic. This is the god who fell in love with his own reflection. He wasn't staring into the neighbor's living room.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. Sometimes I look at my wiener when it's hard. And I'm impressed with myself. I look at it and go, "Oh, damn, that's a good looking schmingus." You know, it's a beautiful thing.
Falling in love with him. The disorder is named after the god of vanity, not the god of unoriginality.
It's like when Rapunzel went to the city and then she saw that painting of the princess and she was like, oh, that's me! No, it's a narcissistic disorder, honey.
So,
oh, got him.
What the hell are they talking about, chat? And why did Nerd press like and tell them they were right? Narcs always tell on themselves. Look, the etymology of the
narcs telling other people, dude. I thought that was the problem. That's why you got to cap them.
The word narcissism has nothing to do with narcotics agents or snitching. Let's take a closer look at NPD, and then we'll circle back and remind Nerd that he's a moron.
Is this guy, I don't know. Obviously, like, the mental health stuff is, like, obviously something I talk about a lot on my channel, but is this guy, like, does this guy have, like, some kind of, like, a qualification to be, like, legitimately trying to diagnose people? I'm just genuinely curious. I'm sorry, but...
And he shouldn't be telling anybody that they're right. He doesn't know.
I don't know, I'd be checking out my hair and the reflection in the pond.
We see a grandiose sense of self-importance. We see someone who has a lot of fantasies about wealth and power. They believe they are special or unique. They require excessive admiration from others. We see a sense of entitlement, a tendency to exploit other people interpersonally, a lack of empathy.
Okay.
We see an envy for other people and a belief that other people envy them. And we also see arrogance.
Leah has been able to get away with doing whatever she feels like. Leah,
thank you so much for disgruntled toad for the small gut. Thank you.
Appears to have grandiosity, arrogance, and a sense of entitlement.
Just a reminder, I'm not diagnosing anybody in this video.
Now seems like a good...
Which is a very responsible thing to say. That's why, again, like, mental health professionals should be the ones that are having, like, the actual diagnosis conversation.
Time to explain the way that I'm using clips in this video. You can tell by the title of the video usually whether it's referring to Sniperwolf directly or not. Well, with the exception of only that clip, all of the mental health videos are not referring to Sniperwolf. And it is important to say that because...
Yeah, it's important that you probably should have said that earlier. Because that's, like, the heavy implication, or that's at least an implication there. And that's, like, the tonality of the video, but I do appreciate him, like, actually saying that.
There are relevant ethical constraints against speculating about public figures when it comes to licensed psychologists and psychiatrists.
Yeah, I think that, like, I think it might be illegal to do that when it comes to presidents, and that standard just kind of washes down, which I think is a good thing. You know, we shouldn't really be trying to diagnose fucking people on the internet. You know, like that.
Which is something I'm going to talk to Psych IRL about a little bit later in this video. As this video goes on, you're going to see that there are a number of different ways that people look at narcissism, and there definitely isn't a consensus amongst experts. Not on how to describe it, whether you even should diagnose it, or what it even is.
A narcissist is not what you think. Is not a person who thinks so highly of themselves.
They can be chameleons or shapeshifters. It's like...
Oh, shit. Are you talking about the global elites?
Shapeshifting. You know, in science fiction movies.
As it tends to be with abstract concepts, and especially in an ever-evolving field like psychology, there are going to be different opinions that some people might find more...
Well, ever-evolving right now, especially since we don't, like, 100% know everything.
That's true in their experience, and that can be contradicted or confirmed by further scientific research and literature. Pathological narcissism is often spoken about these days as one of 3 sets of personality traits referred to as the dark triad. See the overlap in the little Venn diagram? That's messy. And when the goal is to effectively treat a patient, messy is bad.
What I loved about this research is that the one pillar that is universal in all narcissism is entitlement, where narcissism, Machiavellianism, or the willingness to exploit others, psychopathy, and sadism all come together.
At the moment, as strange as this...
I was just here for some brain rot about Sniperwolf being a cunt. Sorry. Okay.
Sounds psychologists feel like evil personality types have not been properly studied. Pathological narcissism is
well, no, it's a difficult thing to study because in order to look at, well, I guess evil, quote unquote, evil personality types, you have to humanize that evil person, and you have to look at like their motivations for somebody. That's like one of the really difficult conversations to have about like pedophiles. It's like, how do we figure out how to stop this behavior, right? Because if there's no scanning gun that you can be like, boop, 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 oh, pedophile, and then they explode, right? So you have to humanize somebody like that in order to see where like their behaviors are coming from, and then that's how like you find out that like a lot of them have been like, molested when they were young, and it's like kind of a continuous or continuing pattern, right? But you have to humanize. It's hard to humanize in human people. I mean, you just have this like visceral reaction to them and their behavior, which you should, obviously. That's the difficulty there, though.
It's different than narcissistic personality disorder. And on top of that, complicating it further, narcissism is yet another concept being pulled into spaghetti by the dual black.
Those other people will always lie to you. How do you have a truthful conversation with a narcissist? I'm assuming you're saying that in like the perspective of trying to diagnose them. I mean, that's for a mental health professional to be able to parse through that information. That's how that would like work there. So
Coals of category versus continuum debates.
We have to view also narcissism on a spectrum, Al.
Meaning that any behavior could be expressing something within
anything could be labeled on some kind of a spectrum.
A range of healthy to harmful amounts of narcissistic thinking.
It's not an either or. It's not that you're narcissistic or you're not.
But when it comes to narcissistic personality disorder, a person either fits the diagnostic criteria or they don't. And it can be diagnosed as a comorbidity of other mental disorders. In other words, you could be diagnosed as a narcissist and as a psychopath. But some believe
some people get get diagnosed as an edger and a gooner and a Mumaxer.
That when NPD appears in tandem with ASPD, they'll combine like Goku and Vegeta in a fusion move to become a brand new syndrome called malignant narcissism. This is my favorite. Alternatively, some prefer to view narcissism as one of 4 subtypes of psychopathy and would just delete NPD completely. Delete! This has been a big debate. Some experts think that diagnosing NPD on its own is a waste of time, and that more research on it is a waste of resources. In fact, NPD was almost deleted from the DSM in the last update. Narcissists didn't take that news very well. After all, they have the most special brains. I won't be.
Well, I mean, when it comes down to having significant overlap in like the same in 2 different diagnoses, it kind of does come down to like, is there a necessity to have both of them in existence? Because in general, if they have the same treatment, there isn't necessarily a reason for there to be 2 different ones. In some instances, if you talk to like mental health professionals, they'll diagnose somebody with something that has a similar or same treatment pattern that's easier to diagnose sometimes if they're having difficulty diagnosing something else or being able to get the treatment for that other thing. Right? I know it's like a weird thing, but that'll sometimes happen because at the end of the day, the treatment is the priority, obviously. More than the diagnosis, like getting treatment for a particular thing. So
ignored DSM-5. In the end, NPD survived this attempt and it hopped from the DSM-4 to the DSM-5 like nothing happened.
We back up in the spot, claiming never been gone.
Now DSM-5, DSM-4, what are these? Is this some kind of Spanish sports channel that you flip past? No. DSM-5 is the holy book for the priesthood of psychology. Not really, though. DSM is not the be-all, end-all of psychology, although it is relied upon by doctors and insurance companies and psychologists to code a diagnosis and to determine whether or not...
Sure, yeah, that's why they changed autism to like autism spectrum disorder instead of like different types of autism, because it specifically, when it came to covering it, it was, insurance companies were being very difficult. So I think Obama was just like, hey, everything, it's all one thing now. You have to cover it. It's kind of a W move.
Care is covered by a customer's policy or not. According to many experts, NPD on its own shouldn't command so much attention, and it doesn't need to be a thing. Which is weird because culturally, NPD is so hot right now. Social media has...
I mean, social media is hot. Like, culturally, every mental health issue is hot right now. We're in a very weird spot where everything has become some kind of a trend. Having some kind of a mental health issue is like trendy. People want to have mental health issues. People want to be, when it comes down to like anything, people want to have mental health issues. They want to be victims. There are so many people like that Katie Bugs girl that want to be like, they want to be victims of assault, even though they're not. Like we have a very bizarre atmosphere now where all these things become sensationalized. And one of the tricky things about it is that it's easier than a physical disability to mimic. You know, at the end of the day, you're probably not going to really be able to know if somebody does or doesn't have autism. There are, like, contrary to popular belief, there are physical signs of autism. Like, you can sometimes tell based on, like, physical aspects of it. Somebody who is, like, we'll say higher support needed. But in a lot of instances, like, you don't know. Like, when it comes to, like, ADHD, you may not know. So somebody could be like, oh, I have ADHD, but, like, it's a kind of like a HIPAA violation to be like, well, show me your, well, they're not forced to show you proof of that. And then they could just basically mock or parody the behaviors. And all of a sudden you're like, oh man, you must actually have a problem. It's very interesting. It's very unfortunate. So it's weird where we're going as a society.
Has been surfacing and rewarding narcissistic behavior.
Social media has brought the conceit and the vanity up to a level that's unparalleled in human history.
And currently it says a lot about our society. Search for a few trendy terms like narcissistic supply, and you will find a whole cottage industry has arisen of people who do nothing but explain the mind of a narcissist.
Yeah, like I even... there is somebody on TikTok who will occasionally make videos about... I guess me, my ex, and she'll call me a narcissist. I wasn't in a narcissistic abusive relationship with, and like I know that I'm not that thing. Like I can be tough to be with. We had a complicated relationship where it was toxic. I worked, she didn't. She stole money from me. I didn't act the way that I should have as a man. I would get angry. I never hit anybody or anything. But now that's narcissistic. I look back at that and go like, okay, there's both things wrong with both of us. She's like, oh, narcissist. But she's also a 30-year-old person that's going nowhere in life. So not to get too into it. That's like the new trend, though. Everybody's narcissistic. Everybody's abusive. Everybody is this. Everybody is that. It gets like so deep. Nobody's a person who's just kind of did a bad thing anymore. You must be like a narcissistic abuser. I'm the survivor of an abusive relationship. Even though I played video games for 16 hours a day, didn't shower, didn't cook, didn't clean, didn't work, didn't do anything. Took advantage of the guy that I was with, stole money from him, and then claimed that he was abusive because sometimes he'd get really upset that he was over $10,000 in debt. You know what I mean? Like that's like, those things don't exist anymore. Smoking weed, fucking half ounce every 3 weeks, $120 back then. I don't know how much it is now. Weekly massages to help her fibromyalgia, But nowadays, like that's just kind of where everything is so incredibly sensationalized. And it's so interesting when you go that far and so disproportionate. You completely avoid the ability to engage in self-discovery and introspection to move on and be a better person, right? Like obviously in like my previous relationship, I think that I think that she was worse. But then at the same time, I look back and go like, well, what way can I have been better? And if you don't do that, if you don't put at least enough criticism onto yourself, how do you grow as a person? How do you grow as a person? You don't. You just blame everybody else for your problems, and then you don't become better. And becoming a better person is hard. I don't think I'm a particularly good person, but I think I'm a better person, and I think that because my wife says so, and people around me say so, and people seem to enjoy my company more than they used to. Part of that is that I get very self-conscious as a human being, so I'm not as welcoming. Especially with like my family and stuff. I get very self-conscious. Like this is so, I know I'm like rambling, but the other day I asked my family, which I haven't hung out with a long time, but I like my family a lot. I asked them like, does anybody want to get together? This sounds so stupid. And when I said that in the group chat, I was instantaneously mortified because I'm like, these people hate me. That was my first thought. They didn't immediately answer. So I was like, these people fucking hate me. They didn't hate me, I don't think. Maybe they do. But then they're like an hour or two later when they got out of work, they're like, oh yeah, like we'd like to get together. And we got together. A lot of us got together. But like that's something that one of the behaviors I'll engage in is like I'm so self-conscious that people don't enjoy, at least in like my family life, that I won't make the effort because I'm scared, It's a scary thing. Thankfully, my wife makes me feel less scared about that, But it's weird, man. Life's very complicated. There's so many complicated aspects to different things, But I will say, like, I would put in the effort because it was a really nice time. I'm still convinced that they hate me. They literally invite me to every family party, weddings. But I think they hate me. But that's, I think, not true. Because it's just like a self-conscious thing. So like genuinely speaking, I would really try to overcome that like pattern of like, oh, they hate me, I'm not gonna ask. Because at the end of the day, they might like you. You know, being afraid of the rejection, not necessarily a good thing. And another thing too is that there are always going to be different types of people in any type of relationship. You know, there is the friendly person who has 100 friends. Like, I think everybody knows the friend who has like 50 friends. That's not me, right? That's actually, I have a cousin that's like that. Like, he's friends with everybody. Everybody likes him. That's great. That's not me. I like to be friends with my wife and then some of my family. That's it. And then there's the people who need to be the I'm gonna fucking die here. There are people who are the organizers. They're the people who will be like, hey, do you guys want to get together? And everybody's like, oh yeah, definitely. Like, they just needed somebody else to trigger that event, you know? So there's just so many different types of people. Something to keep in mind.
Some of them I like. Many of them have good videos.
Many of these channels are not run by licensed mental health professionals. In fact, they're made by diagnosed narcissists who are more than happy to talk about themselves forever to anyone who will listen.
Based alert.
People think that narcissists like myself only look in the mirror because we are admiring ourselves. But
well, do we know that this person's diagnosed, or is this person just saying that they're diagnosed?
This is not necessarily true. Usually it's because we're seeing flaws in ourselves that we have to rectify immediately. It's not so much that we think we look perfect, it's that we have to look perfect. Because if we don't look perfect,
I am perfect.
We look the worst, and we feel like everyone's going to judge us and hate us.
Other channels are run by admittedly banged up people who also aren't licensed therapists either, but can speak from experience.
Today's topic is one that I know.
And just to be clear, there are also people who don't know what the fuck they're talking about, but they know how to read. They know how to read Google, because that's, I mean, and it really, a lot of it does boil down to that. It's very easy for anybody to educate themselves nowadays. You can go online and you can educate yourself on like a lot of different things. I mean, that is in some instances where some of the problems come in with like WebMD, which I think is a great representation of the way things are going. Mental health wise, only because there are people who look at WebMD, they're like, oh, you know, I'm kind of short of breath today, and you look on there, it's like, oh my god, I have some form of lung cancer, when like maybe you know, you fucking, I don't know, you fucking smelled your shit too much and you got a little short of breath there, you know what I mean? I feel like that's a really good like almost personification of it. But you can educate yourself and you can sound like you know what you're talking about when you don't. And the problem is it's like there is a deeper level of understanding when it comes to a lot of these things that need to happen before you talk about them. And these people probably don't understand that, most of them, unless you're a diagnosed individual like Dr. K, you know, Healthy Gamer GG. That guy is extraordinarily intelligent when it comes to things, because it's not just about relaying the information, it's about having experience to talk about it in depth. In general, when you give advice to somebody, I know I'm going off on a little tangent, but you'll see where I'm going here. When you give advice to people, somebody specific, it's easier because you know what their exact life is and you can give them a specific advice. When you give general advice, in the same way where if you talk about narcissism in a general sense, people who are watching you are going to fill the holes the way that they want to fill the holes. You know what I mean? Kind of like an OnlyFans girl. And that can create some problems in different ways, because that's how we have like and again, it's very doubtful, but maybe that's how we come to videos like this that imply that Sssniperwolf is diagnosed with, as a narcissist, which might be true. It may not be true, because we're filling in holes. It's like, oh, one of the issues they have is copying people. It's like, okay, well, she copies somebody, so that must be. But I don't know if it's the same thing. Whereas if you had somebody talk to her, part of that copying motivation could come from like wanting to be, something to do with being better at work, or it could be because they're narcissists. But that's one of the problems when you have like a surface level understanding of these different things, and why like a legitimately trained mental health professional should probably be the one to have these conversations.
I know so many of us have had to deal with and come to terms with the damage that it has caused to our lives.
I am a globally renowned expert in how to negotiate with narcissists.
There seems to be a large number of experts. A lot of these content creators believe that they're experts, again, in narcissism.
I am too, dude. I'm a fucking expert.
Is everybody saying we're in a pandemic of narcissism?
You can tell from the numbers they get and the replies that many people find this supportive and educational and helpful, like life-saving even.
It's about support. individuals who...
Yeah, and then it just kind of like you find your creator who sounds like they know what they're talking about, and they're talking about how a particular thing is narcissistic, and then you watch them, and then you feel like you're the expert because you're getting their secondhand information again, so now it's third-hand information, and then all of a sudden, now you're going on to like TikTok and be like, yeah, this is narcissistic, and it's like, bro, chill the fuck out, you know?
Been abused by someone who is or is not a narcissist. Sometimes go to these channels, and what they see on the channels, what they see in the videos, it resonates with them. And that's powerful. They are onto something here.
The underground of pop psychology discussing narcissism is in the middle of a renaissance on YouTube and Reddit and Quora and self-publishing platforms everywhere.
It's kind of formed into its own little industry.
The online space of narcissism is just booming.
Some of these channels that are run by the more motivational type figures use this informal expertise they have on the subject in a way that no mental health professional would ever do.
Write down on loose leaf paper, I'm a hoe. And stick that.
Maybe not entirely for
I'm a hoe, and stick that over your face.
For self-defense, but for going on offense.
It's interesting because I think another thing too is that when you speak about something with confidence, whether you know what you're talking about or not, people are more likely to listen to you. And you know, there's also me personally, I like to go the route of like, if I really don't know something, I like to say I don't know it because I know it's very complicated. I know mental health is very complicated. And so like realistically, specifically about like not the maker of this video or anything, but like some of these random bullshit gurus talking about, you know, narcissism, I probably have a better idea about mental health than them. But dumb people think they know what the fuck they're talking about. So they're just like, no, I know what I'm talking about. They're confident, right? It's a big part of life, you know, being confident. But no, I think it's a good idea, like when you don't know something, to like just admit it. You know, it's better for everybody.
I'm just showing you how to create mental anguish in somebody with narcissistic personality disorder. What you do with this information is on you.
This is unlicensed.
Why would you want to do that? Is that like a positive behavior? I think it would be better, instead of trying to mentally distress somebody with narcissistic behaviors, to disengage with them. Because then you get into this like toxic. I understand that it can feel good to hurt people sometimes. It's a sad thing to say, but there are people who have wronged you as a person, and it feels good to hurt them. Right? That's not like the hottest take in the entire world. I think that that's something that like a lot of people probably to some degree like can understand. But you know, just because hurting them might feel good for you doesn't mean that it's the best thing for you to do. And it certainly, in many instances, might create a very toxic, can create more toxicity, or will probably create more toxicity and stress in your own life. It's better off to just disengage with people like that. You know, it's so much better off to just disengage with people when they're toxic. It feels good to try to hurt them, but it's not good for you. And that, you know, and you're probably sitting there like, no, I'm right. I should be able. It's not constructive for you as a person. Part of like being a healthy person is knowing to like pick your battles. And it's not important that the random narcissistic person that's toxic for your life gets their comeuppance all the time. You know, sometimes it's just better off leaving them and not engaging with them. And sometimes that will lead to them getting what they deserve in some kind of a karmatic way. So
street knowledge, my friends, served up fast and hot by TikToks and YouTube shorts.
Some of the more extreme claims that I've seen would be that the knowledge of some of these content creators exceeds any PhD.
You think it's weird behavior? Well, like, okay, so let's say let's say you get cut off in traffic, right? You get cut off, and then your first response is like, oh, this motherfucker cut me off. Like, I'm gonna ride their ass the entire way home, right? That's like a behavior that like hurts somebody to some extent, which I think is a normal thing for people to like feel like, oh, I want to do this. But at the end of the day, is that like a positive behavior for you? Because then all of a sudden, you know, you drive 5 lights down from where you're supposed to turn to go home, and you just to tail this person that like cut you off. They might have done an accident too, and it's like, did that help you or did that waste your time? You know, it might have made you feel good, but like maybe, you know, try to figure out a different way to feel better. You know. That is what I'm referring to when I say that. I'm not talking about anything like super serious of like, you know, I think it's a very normal kind of behavior that people will engage in.
So as somebody who has a PhD, I'm a little disappointed to hear that.
And I spoke to a group of therapists this Sunday just gone, and I was like, you know, most of your clients are getting their information about narcissism from people on YouTube like me. They're not getting it from the published research. They're not getting it from peer review. They're not getting it from the books.
I use scholarly articles, as I mentioned. And some of these channels do too. I actually saw a number of videos where some of the same articles that I've used were used in the video. Unfortunately, most of the time, the sources aren't clear. It's personal experience, Sometimes the
Yeah, you use personal experience to fill in the gaps to like interpret the information correctly.
source is another narcissism channel.
Dr. Todd Grande can come across a little bit, I don't know, grumpy, but he does operate a very good channel for comprehensive explanations of many different concepts in psychology, including narcissism. Although often focused on scientific accuracy, he does cover emerging topics and trends outside of the DSM and offers his own personal opinions on things, such as he also doesn't think too highly of Sssniperwolf.
Content creators like Leah don't make any meaningful contribution to society.
He's kind of based, but do I? I don't know. Jesus Christ, you fucking read the shit out of her. Oh my God.
She does not appear to have any discernible traditional talent.
Damn, dude. That's fucking brutal. Holy fuck, bro.
His is one of
that guy fucking, that's terrible. That's funny. Well, that's fucked up. If I was her, I'd fucking consider ending it all on that one, dude. Jesus Christ.
Several well-informed channels that do feature licensed professionals, such as Surviving Narcissism with Dr. Les Carter, and those featuring Dr. Ramani Devasula.
I'm a licensed
I love myself some ramen noodles.
clinical psychologist. I'm a professor of psychology.
You are the world's leading expert. You are now piloting all of this academic research around narcissism. What is narcissism? The word is thrown around all over the place.
True that, brother.
So narcissism is a personality style. I think it's actually really important for us to break out of this conversation of it as a disorder. Variable empathy, entitlement, grandiosity, arrogance, selfishness, the need for validation and admiration, a need for control.
It's interesting because I feel like we all have some of these to some extent, right? Like I'm gonna go through them.
Selfish disorder, variable empathy, entitlement.
I have empathy. My wife taught me how to be a very empathetic guy too. More empathetic than usual. You know, I feel like everybody has empathy in them, but there's like a thing about true empathy. True empathy, that's what I call it. It's more difficult than regular empathy. It's easy to look at somebody that you like or that you've had like a good, either that you like or is going through a similar experience and have empathy for them, which I think is empathy, having gone through a similar experience. Anyway, but it's hard to look at somebody who's wronged you and have empathy for them. And that's what I've learned from my wife. I've learned, I think, true empathy. You know, I've always had regular empathy. I think we all do, but I've learned true empathy, the ability to have empathy for somebody who's wronged me and look at them like, oh, how does, you know, what led them to this particular behavior? And it can be good, man. Like it can make you feel better about stuff and like take stuff less personally and just be like, you know, make you feel better about like, oh, I don't need to retaliate or feel like I need to retaliate. Like someone cut me off in traffic, you know, it's interesting, but
Grandiosity.
What is grandiosity? I'm fat.
Arrogance.
I could be a little arrogant sometimes.
Selfishness.
I could be a little selfish sometimes, but I like to, you know, I think, yeah. I imagine when she says selfishness, she's talking about like an incredible amount of selfishness, you know, like I will take the last roll at the dinner table. Unless I know my wife really likes the rolls, like if it's a Texas Roadhouse, then I'll let her have it. Right. That's
the need for validation and admiration.
I have the need for validation, but specifically for my wife, I need it to survive because I fucking need that woman to love me and to make me feel good about myself. I don't need it from anybody else though. I think that's normal.
A need for control.
I guess. I think everybody likes to have a level of control over their life, you know.
Motivation by power, dominance. Again, that need for
I like to have dominance. I like that. My wife makes me feel very dominant.
Control. They envy.
Don't fucking talk about my wife too much.
Other people, or they think other people envy them. They very much often live in fantasy worlds. They cannot.
Yep, I do play a lot of World of Warcraft, dude.
Tolerate frustration or disappointment, and under those conditions, they often explode in these big rages.
Dr. Ramani is a face that you'll see all over public conversation around narcissism these days. Her personal view is that NPD is an underdiagnosed epidemic.
I would stay away. You know, here's my thing. I know this is weird, but it's good to educate yourself. But I feel like if you're like really into the narcissistic YouTube videos, like every day you're watching like your favorite narcissist YouTuber, I think that could potentially be toxic because people do that shit. It's like true crime. And since you're listening to a licensed mental health professional, it's not going to be as bad as something else. But like true crime, people think everything's a fucking conspiracy and their brains have literally rotted out. And they're constantly scared, on edge. They're incredibly anxious because everything is a conspiracy to them. You know, like it's not just a meme of like, oh, my wife will watch true crime and like now she's fucking crazy. No, it's like a real thing. When you're engaging with one type of content, like you're getting fucked up. And it's the same thing when like you're constantly engaging with different accusations on the internet. It's one of the reasons why like I just did talk about the you know, what is it? Fucking Dan Schneider bullshit. I did talk about that. But like I stayed away from it for a little bit because when you engage with that a lot, like you can get really fucked up. You can almost get like a secondhand trauma. Like it can really fuck you up. And it's like, engaging too much with like really intense things can fuck with your brain a little bit. So I feel like, consume in a healthy way. Milk's good for you unless you drink a whole gallon a day. Then it may be a little too much sugar.
One that's having an impact on everybody.
My issue is that those descriptions are incredibly broad and can be applied to anyone when it can actually be something rare. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like that's what I'm saying. Like narcissism isn't just being selfish and wanting to have control over things and all these other behaviors, because we all engage in that. It's to a degree that becomes extraordinarily toxic.
Uses social media. Narcissism is a special area of focus in her work and her practice, and the subject of hundreds of videos she's uploaded that, to be clear, are not meant to refer to any person in particular, including anyone mentioned in this video. She knows damn well so many people will find this content personally relatable. In fact, the more that you learn about the disorder, the more you'll probably think, like I did, well, this sounds like a difficult coworker of mine, or somebody I went to school with, or a house cat I grew up with, or every single politician.
Oh my God. You're describing my dad.
Yeah.
You're describing my son. You're describing the person I'm dating.
Guys, I think there's a lot of people with this problem.
How often are you going to encounter a narcissist?
If I were to spitball a number, 20%, 1 in 5.
That high?
Enough narcissism to cause problems in relationships? Yeah. Do they have NPD? I have no idea.
Generally.
Yeah, okay, that's what I'm about to say. Okay, I understand that. Like somebody with, like, if you're going to talk about narcissism being on a spectrum, then I imagine that like a lot of people would have some kind of narcissistic tendencies, but like a diagnosed narcissist is going to be much more rare than 1 in 5. And that's fair. Okay, like sure. I just think it's good to at the very least make the distinction, which she's doing, but for everybody to keep in their mind, between somebody who might have like a narcissistic tendencies and might be a narcissist on a spectrum versus somebody with a legitimate diagnosed, like I believe I would imagine it's a personality disorder, right? Yeah, she said NPD, the narcissistic person. Yeah, because those are very different, right? And that's again one of the toxic problems with the conversation about like autism on the internet. There's some people that they might have some tendencies associated with autism. I wouldn't call that on the spectrum of autism, and then they're like, oh, I'm autistic. It's like, chill the fuck out. Like, why do you want to be autistic? Like, why do you? It's a lot of times I think some of these people want to identify with something and they want to feel unique in some capacity, which is sad.
In the population at large, you're talking maybe 10 or 15% of the people are going to qualify as narcissist or narcissistic personality disorder.
I also see that there's this tendency to kind of call everyone a narcissist.
Somebody's boyfriend cheats on them. He's a narcissist. Slow down, sister. Like, let's spend a little bit more time. I'm digging in. I'm trying to find the entitlement.
This reckless use of the term makes it so that the term loses all value.
This is
true that, brother.
Everywhere. It's almost as though something seeped into
the inflation of mental health issues.
The water supply. It's making everyone sick. And many people say, I don't have someone like this in my life. Oh, yes, you do.
This disorder is just too.
I don't know if I have someone like that in my life. I don't think I do. I think that the people I interact with are good people.
Prevalent in society these days not to be educated.
Understanding this personality style is critical.
This is happening around you, and even if it's not targeting you directly, simply looking on a social media feed and having
I don't know. I feel like telling people, especially that are like, oh, I don't know anybody like that there is somebody like that in their life. I think that's toxic because now they're going to go looking for it. And if you look for something, you will find it. It doesn't mean that you're going to find the purest form of that thing though, right? Like if you're desperately looking for love, you're going to find it, but you're going to force a situation that's probably not particular. Oh, I'm going to die. Oh God, that's probably not love. Right. And so if like you're forcing yourself to try to find a narcissist, in your atmosphere because you were told that there's supposed to be one, I don't know if that's necessarily good for your mental health.
See, all this narcissistic people are more likely to get romantic partners, all the things that
they're going to get horny.
We think are success. Narcissistic people have.
If I wrote a book on narcissism, it becomes a how-to guide for how to achieve in the New World Order.
And today she's here to talk about her brand new book.
It's not easy to keep the Machiavellian, psychopathic, narcissistic sadists under control.
What's the difference between someone who is narcissistic and someone who has a narcissistic personality disorder?
Here's where it gets tricky.
I mean, it would be like the degree in which that those particular behaviors impact their life, yeah.
A lot of people with these patterns have no impairment. They're getting promotions, they're getting the girl or the guy, everyone's thinking they're so cool, I want them at my party, they're often very financially successful.
Oh shit, I'm a fucking narcissist, dude. My ex was right, bro. I'm fucking all these things. Everybody loves me at parties. Blah.
As far as they're concerned, they're killing it.
Why fix what ain't broke?
They probably are killing it.
They don't see a problem. They think they're special.
I don't know, man. If I'm making if I'm going around, it sounds like if I was going around fucking making tons of money and everybody liked me, I'd be like, oh, I'm doing something right. No,
They think they're unique.
They're our CEOs.
Yeah.
They're our world leaders.
Right.
They are our celebrities.
I mean, if they're fucking CEOs and world leaders, they might be unique. I don't know, man. I'm just That probably doesn't do. It sounds like you know, I don't think I'm unique. I think I'm extraordinarily lucky. But like, if you're a fucking CEO of like a fucking company and you're making tons of money, and people are like, "Oh, you're narcissistic. You're not special." It's like, you probably are. There's not a lot of CEOs. That doesn't mean that they're good people. By the way, I think that a lot of CEOs are fucking other, workers over, taking their monies. I think it's a terrible thing, brothers. I think it's a terrible thing. But I'm just saying, I'm just saying.
They are our athletes. They are our music stars.
Now, the reason why it's important to understand how a narcissist navigates life is not to copy their behavior.
Knowing how to,
I want to copy their behavior.
To contend with, deal with, manage some of these difficult personalities.
Oh my God, Hassan Piker is a narcissist, guys. I freaking knew it. I knew it. I have someone in my life who's a narcissist. He called me fat once.
Has made a huge difference in, I think, where I've been successful and where I've had difficult times.
Because it's not good for relationships. I have clients, for example, who have been in narcissistic marriages, relationships, 40, 45, 50 years. And they've said to me, nothing like this was being said 20 years ago.
Now, I know some of you might be thinking, Dr. Downvote, how dare you?
You ain't Dr. McGraw.
Edutainment psychiatry with a non-consensual patient is against the rules, specifically the Goldwater Rule, which was a response from the APA to an article in Fact magazine in 1964.
Oh, yeah, this is the thing I was referring to before.
Where over 1,000 psychiatrists expressed their belief that Barry Goldwater was a narcissist and psychopathic and not fit to be an American president.
When somebody tells you he's for Barry Goldwater, you ask him which Barry Goldwater he's for. Is he for the one who said, "I'd drop a low-yield atomic bomb on the Chinese supply lines in North Vietnam"?
And since
based
1973, the APA has attempted to curtail its members from weighing in on public figures who they haven't personally examined. Hey, Donna, how's it going?
It's a very, okay, this is kind of embarrassing, but do I call you nerd?
Yeah, nerd.
Or like,
Nerd's fine. Before I would bring in your clip, I think it might even be smart for me to say like,
yeah, I get that though, because some people sometimes when I talk to them, they're like, do I call you Papa Gut? It's like, yeah, that's a little weird if you did that. But yes, call me that. Okay.
Like, Donna hasn't seen this video.
It's part of my narcissistic tendency to want to have power and control. So when you call me Papa, it's like, yeah, I am your daddy, bitch. I am your daddy, girl. Or gay guy. What do gay guys like when you call them? Probably slurs, honestly. I feel like a lot of gay guys have like a humiliation kink. But I'm not going to do that publicly.
Donna isn't.
But go to my OnlyFans and I'll call you slurs, gay guys, okay? Okay, you just have to pay me $10. just kidding.
Endorsing the content I'm making, but I just wanted to ask her about this gatekeeping of mental health. I see there being kind of a ethical trap where you're perfectly fine to use textbook terms from psychology or therapy and throw them around sort of cavalierly, sloppily. You can use them as an insult. You can call someone a psycho or a narcissist or something like that. And you're using terms that are serious mental health conditions and have a definition. But then the second that you start to be accurate about it and you try to define, like, okay, is that true? Is he really a psychopath? Is he really sociopathic? Is this really a narcissist? Then all of a sudden it's like, whoa. Are you a licensed therapist? Because you can't diagnose.
Even sometimes
yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. These types of things become very casually laid out. But when it comes to like a legitimate diagnosis, obviously, like, yeah, there should be more, like a higher expectation onto it, sure.
Therapists will say, well, you shouldn't say your husband has narcissistic personality disorder unless you've spoken to their therapist, which obviously they haven't.
So the instinct to be responsible in that regard is to bring in someone who is a mental health professional, someone who is a licensed therapist. And then you've got the potential disaster, another trap.
I'm actually an analrapist. I do analysis and therapy. Analrapist is ANALRAPIST. World renowned, guys.
A therapist speculating about someone who isn't their patient. So that's a violation of the Goldwater Rule, which is that ethical constraint from the APA. They still do it today. Like, psychologists are constantly talking about whether Biden is mentally fit for office, whether Trump's a narcissist, whether Michael Jackson was whatever. Like, people will go on the news and be like, I think I think this person has got that.
Multiple US
Yeah, but I don't think that they're like actual mental health professionals because they're not held to the same ethical standards, you know?
publications lining up to suggest he's suffering from something called narcissistic personality disorder.
That's prohibited for psychiatrists.
I mean, Trump is very special. He was able to turn into a billionaire with just a small loan of $1 million from his father. I mean, who else could say that they could do that?
And there's an overlap to psychology where it's at least frowned upon. So then you've passed the credential check of I am a licensed and educated person on this topic, but they're not my patient. So you have to shut up ethically. And then if they are your patient, then you definitely can't talk about it.
As therapists, we have a rule.
And the only way that you could get around that is if it was like, you know, if they gave you permission or if it was a court-ordered evaluation and it became part of the public record. So it protects their expertise and it protects the privacy of the patient. But everybody who's not in that equation is kind of left with less awareness of what these terms mean.
Right. I mean,
Go to school and study it or something, I guess.
I do want to start off by saying, though, that like this is just my opinion. I am not the authority, nor am I a monolith that gets to decide what people can and can't discuss.
I am.
With that said, though, I do believe that there is a way that people have to talk about these topics in a very responsible way. And I do feel like a lot of content on the internet.
I think that the way that it has to, if you want to make it a responsible conversation, it always has to be with the understanding of not trying to forcefully diagnose or assign a particular thing like this to somebody that you know. Because I think it can get very toxic very quickly if there wasn't the correct boundary created for that.
Internet and media as a whole have crossed certain ethical lines.
Mm-hmm.
I would never discuss a specific mental disorder, and even using a public figure as a launching point to discuss that mental disorder. I don't know, just something about it feels uncomfortable. And I guess it is maybe because the background of the golden.
I think that another problem too. Oh, that was a slick defense. Another problem too is when a mental health professional diagnoses somebody with like narcissistic personality disorder, they're doing it in a way to try to find treatment for that individual. Usually, there's fundamentally the way therapy works is you have a client and you usually can read what the problem is in their relationship or with them, and very quickly, within like 1 or 2 sessions, and then you're trying to convince that individual, you're trying to show them your diagnosis, but you don't explicitly tell them. You know, you don't usually go like, I think you have blah, blah, blah. You try to, not in every instance, but you try to get them to understand, you try to get them to get there. You basically try to educate somebody that you're doing therapy on to be their own therapist in a way of like being able to properly figure out what their own problems are. And that's the way that you would typically do that. That's the responsible way to do it. I feel like a lot of people in the real world or outside of mental health, I guess, because we're still in the real world, right, are trying to call somebody a narcissist as an insult and a justifier to dislike that person and to think that they are a fundamentally bad person. But when you enter like the world of mental health and you look at different disorders, a lot of the times what comes along with the tagline with that is that like in an educated mental health space is that like there are some things that aren't necessarily in their control or easy for them to control without the proper understanding of the issues that they are having. And so I feel like a lot of people, when they're like, oh, you're a narcissist, they're not saying that in an educated way to help you become a better person. They're doing it in a way to try to, well, I was gonna say assign, but de-sign humanity to you. Well, you're just a narcissist. You're a bad person. So fuck you. And so that's another issue, in my opinion.
Water rule. But yeah, I know that's kind of what your video is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's just something about it for me that feels uncomfortable.
People think if you define the term and then you say, well, this person seems to have these signs, you have to make this genuflection where you go, no, I'm not diagnosing. I'm not a mental health professional. Right?
Yeah, you should be saying that.
Right? Even if you've never presented yourself.
We really got off topic. This is supposed to be about Sssniperwolf. I appreciate the fact that it's educated. They referenced earlier that he was retired, which means he's probably older than he looks. It's probably the glasses. But I mean, I could appreciate the movement to a more educated conversation, even in like a drama space. That's like, let's call it what it is. You know, I can appreciate that. So, you know, like the maturation of content. So, but I'm still a little confused as to where this is going, because we started off that with the heavy implication that Sssniperwolf had like a narcissistic personality disorder. And now we've kind of gone off track having like a very educated conversation about the ethics of saying somebody's a narcissist, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm just wondering where it's going.
In that way, you know, like there's some pressure to say that. Are you diagnosing? No.
Yeah.
Or maybe I am. Maybe that is the definition of diagnosing. The difference is my diagnosis doesn't come with the authority of the American Psychiatric Association. If I don't have that, then it's like, I'm free to diagnose someone. I diagnose people in conversation all the time.
Right.
If you can't afford to pay to have someone that you vent to about work, you're paying $100 an hour to be like, I've got this coworker who's stealing all my stuff and says that I'm nice, but they also hate me.
And my therapist just flat out said, well, you know, they are on the narcissistic personality disorder spectrum. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
If you don't have anyone to talk to about that, then it's like the next best thing is that you listen to a similar story by a YouTuber who isn't saying they're a therapist, but who's explaining the useful concept. You can relate to it. You get support. Start to realize like, oh, okay, this is not my fault. I don't need to actually analyze their projection on me and then change that about myself. They're actually nuts, so I should just forget about it and do the best I can for myself. Like, I think that that's useful.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, but right there, like, they're nuts, right? So, like, the assignment of this person has a particular, like, as a narcissist, it comes with the baggage of that makes this person fundamentally a bad person. And again, I don't think that the focus is necessarily productive. And it's a trying focus. When you diagnose, like, unprofessionally diagnose somebody with something like a narcissism, like, you're not you're almost trying to. You're like, this is a bad person. There's an assignment that this is a bad person. And a lot of times, if you already think that they're a bad person, which, by the way, I think Sssniperwolf is a bad person. You're just trying to, like, add more onto it to justify your feelings that this is a bad person even more. Whereas, again, a mental health perspective isn't trying to do that. A mental health perspective, I'm going to do this one. A mental health perspective is trying to, explain the behaviors to help that individual better themselves, because it's a one-on-one client type of a scenario.
Sure. Like, with that, though, like, I don't believe that talking about mental health issues in relation to public figures is completely off the table. I think it's completely ethical for one to talk about it if it hits, like,
not her. She's fun.
Certain criteria. And again, this is totally my opinion. You can go on the internet and you can find different influencers and personalities doing a full breakdown of a certain person. But for me, in my opinion, what's ethical is if the public figure divulges actual personal mental health information to the public. I think that's free to talk about it because they themselves are the ones that actually, put that in public.
Sure.
Or there is a news story that exposes the public figure to doing, I don't know, X, Y, Z. Or if
jacking off in a movie theater. Pee Wee Herman did that one time, but it was one of those porn flicks. So I don't really understand why people got mad at him, because what the hell else are you there for? Am I right? Or am I right? Of course I'm right. I'm narcissistic.
If you want to talk about the mental health disorder or mental health issue in general.
I'm following the story into the mental health issue. I'm seeing a behavior that doesn't make sense to people, didn't make sense to me. I hadn't seen a whole lot of examples of anybody acting like this. I was left sort of scrambling for a mental model to understand why someone would be doing this. In the comments underneath the video, a number of people called it out. They spotted the copycat thing is NPD, the projection is NPD. I had to look into that because I had never associated that with narcissism.
I think it is fair because she has said, I lack empathy, almost speculated on her having whatever personality disorder.
You know who else has no empathy? Psychopaths. I'm narcissistic and self-absorbed.
So if you approach it that way, personality disorder.
You know who else has no empathy? Psychopaths. I'm narcissistic and self-absorbed.
So if you approach it that way and investigate, do these comments have validity? Does what she's saying have validity as well?
When I searched for
yeah, that's a good question. Does what she's saying have validity? Because again, and this is why you'd need to, like, have an actual mental health counselor sit down and talk with her to diagnose. Part of this is coming through the lens of somebody who wants to be popular. And, for what, I don't know, in her sphere, her saying these things might be like, oh, that might be something that she's saying to be quirky and popular. Like, oh, I'm a girl with anger problems. Whatever fucking persona that she's trying to put on there. Whatever amount of sensationalization she's potentially adding to herself to, come off as a person that she's not necessarily. There's so many different angles here, and these motivations I think are very necessary to talk about when it comes to these these different things, when it comes to this conversation.
Narcissists copy people. This gigantic, it was like knocking the wall down and finding this entire world of content based around narcissists.
This channel is devoted to narcissistic abuse awareness and recovery.
People who are telling personal anecdotes about, like a teammate, a parent, a sibling, a best friend.
If you've grown up in a narcissistic family or have been around some narcissistic people
or friends, you'll often feel like nothing you say has value. Your life is not that interesting.
Yeah. What if those things are true, though? What if you just don't have anything of value to say and you're just not interested? Because I feel like there's so many people on the internet who don't listen. Here's the reality. I think there's a lot of people in this world that do not produce value. They're valueless. They don't have anything particularly interesting or intelligent to say, and they get upset about it. And so now they're looking to diagnose everyone else as the problem. Like, maybe you're just fucking bored. And I'm talking about audiences who gravitate towards conversations about like what narcissism is from YouTubers that don't have any actual the accreditations or any don't have the ability or the formal education to talk about this. And so I feel like there's so many people who are fucking, and I'm not trying to be rude, but like they are boring. They are maybe losers. Maybe they don't, that's just, they suck. And instead of like, oh, how am I the problem? How can I improve? How can I become more interesting? Or how can I have, more interesting things to say? Instead of doing that, they go like, oh, like everyone else is a narcissist. And again, this isn't talking about anybody specifically, but I feel like it's a factor. I feel like there's a lot of people who don't want to feel like they're the problem. But I think that if you have a healthy relationship with being the problem, in the way of like, it's really just a healthy relationship with being wrong, being okay with being wrong, and being able to take that criticism, not instantaneously. You don't have to like instantly when someone's like, oh, you're wrong about something, go like, oh yeah, you're right. No, it's okay to reflect and take a little while to come to that realization. You need to have a level of pride and an ego in yourself where you won't like allow yourself to get broken down. But if somebody says something about you and then you let it sit for maybe it could take a month or so, and then you're like, you know what, maybe I am an issue or maybe I am part of the problem. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a positive thing that you can do, in your head from a mental health perspective. And I feel like so many people though, I feel like on TikTok especially, oh, this person's a fucking narcissist. Oh, this person's a... because they made me feel X, Y, and Z. Maybe you suck. Maybe part of the problem is you. Maybe you're looking for somebody else to blame your problems on. Maybe you're actually the narcissist. Maybe you're just, there's a lot of different things. I'm just saying. I'm just fucking saying.
You might feel like you don't have value, and I know because it happened to me.
People who don't even pretend to
maybe you don't have value, girl.
Be licensed therapists who are just telling stories.
I've had all these things, happen. And it's just funny to me.
This guy's really got that fucking ILS going on.
They're still trying to figure out how this person who was trusted in their life could have been undermining them the whole time. And so they can talk about it for quite a while.
In my particular case, when I married into the family, there was particular narcissists who were blatantly obvious about the mimicking. I would have a conversation with them, and then later on in that same evening, I would hear them in a conversation within ear's distance using the same words.
They find a big audience with that.
Shit, I've had content creators watching things that I was saying. And then I get off stream and they'll go on stream and they'll start saying the exact shit. Weird shit. And by the way, I think that there's a difference between copying somebody and like potentially taking inspiration from somebody. So like if I'll watch like a Destiny video, and I think he's a smart guy. So I'll watch him say something, and if I'm like, oh, that makes like a lot of sense, like I'll start saying it. I don't think that that's abnormal to like, become educated in some capacity and be like, oh yeah, and a lot of times I might even credit it and be like, yeah, I heard this from here. But I think that's a little different. I think that is obviously different from like just copying somebody blatantly, because one is just trying to copy what you think success is, and the other one is like trying to actually, be a better person. We'll say, right?
Because I think the problem is so widespread. There's tons. It's very popular.
Well, I do want to go back to your first question of who is qualified to talk about this, and then you bringing up all the content that you saw of different types of people actually talking about narcissism. I think that's actually very helpful if you are someone who has...
maybe she's maybe Sssniperwolf is a narcissist, but the way that they're classifying it on like a narcissistic spectrum, but doesn't have like NPD. That's possible, maybe.
As the mental disorder yourself, or if you are a family member of someone who has narcissism. I think it's very beneficial for all these voices to be heard, because narcissistic personality...
Maybe I do have somebody. I have a cousin. She's struggling. That's all I'm going to say. I wish that we were closer, but she's kind of cut herself off from the family. It's a sad thing. I don't know, man. That's a sad thing. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to get into it.
Disorder.
I don't want to think about it, guys. I'm going to get sad.
As you might have read from the research, is one of those disorders where it is very hard to get them into therapy or into a lab to study because they think that nothing is wrong with them.
They're less likely to...
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense.
Go to
I didn't think about that.
Therapy. And when they start going to therapy, they're 60% more likely to drop out of therapy.
But I guess 1,000.
What about people? This is just like a side conversation. What about people who know what to say to a therapist to get the therapist to agree with them? Like, would that fall under potentially like a narcissistic person? Because there are people who go to therapy that are explicitly going there to try to not go there, but in the way, not in the way of like, I'm not going. In the way of the therapist, or at least their mental perception is like, the therapist is like, oh, you don't need this anymore. So you go there, and the therapist says, "Oh, well, do you have this? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have this problem. Yeah, you don't want it's this. Oh," and then you're saying what the person wants, what you think that the therapist wants you to say. And you know, if you're good enough at it, the therapist might not be able to identify that behavior that you're engaging in of just placating people. You know, I wonder what that is.
Or hundreds of people have noticed these same patterns, and people are coming together and being like, "Oh yeah, I know a narcissist too," and like he does mirroring, and even though it's not in the
Yeah, I know a narcissist too. He is mewing. He does a lot of edge maxing, a lot of loam maxing.
DSM,
Okay.
people are agreeing that
I'm making myself laugh and no one else. That's the best part about me sometimes. My wife says it. She's like, "You really are your biggest fucking fan." Which, by the way, you have to be your biggest fan, guys. Always be your biggest fan. I'm gonna fucking die.
this is they've seen this in their partner or their friend or stuff like that.
Mirroring. Boy, we got mirrors in this story, don't we? Mirroring is an interesting phenomenon with an ever-growing oral history. When you search for copycats or narcissists or identity theft, there are so many anecdotes from victims who were thrown for a loop by close encounters of the narcissistic kind.
Identity theft.
Shit, like aliens, close encounters.
The narcissist will steal your identity and become a twisted version of who you are,
while smearing them the whole time to everybody else.
They probably disrespect you a whole lot behind your back.
Damn.
But then again, they're copying you, doing the things that you do.
Trying to take you over like an alien.
Dressing how you dress, trying to talk how you talk. They can't give you credit. They can't. Oh yeah, man. Like what
trying to hold the brother down.
You do there is good.
She can't have the world knowing that she became this person, so she has to bury them.
They can't give you that credit. They're not going to let you know. They're just mad at you for no reason.
A lot of narcissists and toxic people, like myself, we have
based
identity issues. It's like we are facing an ongoing identity crisis.
You think that this guy's actually you think that these guys that are saying that they're narcissists, or you think that they're actually narcissists, or you think that they're just like making their personality around being a narcissist so that they can like educate the world on something or feel like they're educating?
Here's Jenna Marbles. Oh, this makes me look much prettier than I actually am.
Not really. I mean, Jenna Marbles is prettier, but this filter looks like a dog's literal anus.
Oh, I like this.
I went through my process of remaking myself from the person that I thought was disgusting and inferior.
I hate my teeth, but this makes my teeth look really nice. Can I just have this face? I just want her face.
I wanted it. I wanted to be like them, but I didn't want to be them. How my mind works. I think I can be a better version of them.
Damn. Jenna's eyes are pretty, and now they're my eyes.
I'm like, damn, I like that about this person. So
okay, so that just seems like it's a filter of her. So this is one of the small things. Like this is just like, oh, I have Jenna Marbles filter on, and she's prettier than me, and I like her. That, and maybe I'm wrong, doesn't necessarily read as like a narcissistic trait. That reads as more of like, oh, like a compliment to Jenna. Because the other behavior with this girl, Azzyland, is like trying to take on her persona and then trying to belittle her as a person so that like she can, complete the transformation, we'll say. It's almost like maybe this is sensationalized, but like a social assassination of the person. It's like you're taking on their skin and then killing them off, so you're doing it in like the reverse order. This just seems like she's like, oh, Jenna Marbles is pretty, I like her. This one feels like a reach. This is what I'm talking about a little bit. This one doesn't really resonate with me.
To be like them, but I didn't want to be them. How my mind works. I think I can be a better version of them.
Damn. Jenna's eyes are pretty, and now they're my eyes.
I'm like, damn, I'm
stealing her eyes.
That about this person. So I would get around that person, study them, and take on their personality characteristic.
Like how my voice was, I would intentionally do it for a while, and eventually it would just become second nature. And I basically train myself over periods of time.
Now, after that, listen to this clip of Sssniperwolf lamenting how no one likes her laugh, and talking about how someone else would study the cute laugh of a famous person, and then rehearse it over and over until they nailed it.
We get it, her laugh is cute. We all want a cute laugh, but we can't always have a cute laugh. So go and steal a cute laugh.
Why doesn't it work for me?
Does this take a long time? I wonder, do they like play her laugh over and over and over again and just practice it in front of a mirror?
It just sounds like she's self-conscious about her shitty, ugly laugh. And she's being obnoxious about it for content.
Oh, how interesting. She already understands all this, huh?
Damn it, I'll never have a cute laugh.
Now, as an outgrowth of envy, here's how it makes sense.
People will always just come at me and be like, hey, you copy this, oh, you copy that.
The copying comes from the narcissistic feeling of entitlement.
Because I want to do it too.
They feel entitled to the admiration that someone...
I don't know, like this is what I'm talking about, because I actually like this video. It's very interesting, and I like videos that are mentally stimulating, and I will say this is like one of the more stimulating videos I've watched in a long time. So that's a compliment for me. I don't have to agree with something to find it like very stimulating. I find this video very stimulating and very educated, even if I disagree. But these are like the moments where I feel like you're reaching a little hard. That's all I'm saying. I feel like you're reaching a little hard with the Jenna Marbles clip. I feel like you're reaching a little hard with like the laugh clip. It doesn't really, I don't agree with those particular moments that she is like a legitimate narcissist. I feel like you have this is what I feel like. This video is coming in saying Sniperwolf is not a good person, which I don't think is a disagreeable take at all. And I think she might be narcissistic. Okay. And then you're trying to find narcissism in her behavior to a degree where some behaviors are not something that would be associated with narcissist, but you're projecting it you're basically making it seem like it would be. There are other behaviors that you could definitely argue, but like this is not one of them, in my opinion. The laugh one, it's preposterous to me that was like a narcissistic thing. It sounds like she's self-conscious about her laugh. She just doesn't like her laugh. And then she's like, I wish I had a better laugh. And by the way, you can kind of control your laugh. I think a little bit, you don't want to have a goofy ass laugh. So
else is getting.
There will be times where I watch a really cool video from somebody and I really like the challenge and then I will copy their challenge.
They want to take that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. This is what I'm talking about. Sometimes I feel like the nuance is gone. There is a difference between copying a challenge or doing us the same challenge. See, the word copy, like this is like a whole fucking thing. Every single word or every single thing that we say and do is going to be interpreted by another person based on their life experience. An extreme example of this is language, right? Like you literally have a different language than somebody else. You're recalling a significantly different life experience, when you hear a word. Like there's a slur in the American language that's very similar to saying black in Spanish, right? That's an extreme example, but like a less extreme example would be like when I like that a job is done well, I go, oh, beautiful. When somebody like does something, oh, beautiful, thank you. Like that's like my way of saying something, and I think you guys know that about me. Or I'll say incredible. Oh, that's incredible. When I think something is fucking ridiculous, to some extent. You might hear me say, oh, incredible. And you might actually think I think it's incredible because we're going to have like different life experiences that are going to, cause different words to mean different things slightly to us. When she says copy in this instance, it's not a bad thing to look at as a creator, look at something that somebody else is doing, seeing that it's popular and deciding to do that as well. I wouldn't call that copying. She is. And so, but I wouldn't. I don't think a normal person would. And then there is what she's doing to that Azzyland person. Sorry, I just get names wrong. I'm fucking old. Where she's like legitimately actually like carbon copying different aspects of her content. And that's a very different thing. And the reason I bring it up is because this one doesn't seem particularly problematic. It's just like, oh, I saw somebody do something popular and I did it. Okay, fucking who cares? It's like the same thing as like if I see people talking about a particular topic and I decide to talk about it because I think, because it's like within my realm, right?
At good reputation and apply it to themselves, even if it's unwarranted, even though it doesn't make sense.
I'm just an accumulation of all the personality characteristics and traits that I've admired in other people.
I'm not entirely sure that any of my personality traits.
I mean, that's kind of like the same for everybody, though, in a non-narcissistic way. I think all of us learn different personality traits from. That's what I'm saying. It's like so interesting. Oh, but just a combination of different personality traits I like from other people. All of us are, to some extent. That's like literally like I am like my mother. It just wasn't an active like. It's just there's a different relationship with it. Like I'm very much like my mother because I was raised by a single mother, right? There are qualities about my mother and as well as other people that I admire and I want to take on as a person. That doesn't necessarily make it like a narcissistic thing. I'm not going to sit here and say I know when it does and doesn't become narcissistic because like let's say you have like a father figure in your life. You're a young boy, a young man, and you have a father figure in your life and you start to take on some of those qualities because you respect that person and you admire that person and you're going to fucking lose this game and you're going to cry. And you admire that person. is that narcissistic behavior, or is that like you appreciating a particular behavior and wanting to emulate it because you want to be a better person? And so I don't know where that line is. Where I don't know where the line is. I don't know. Oh fuck! Damn it! I don't know what he jumped like way sooner than he's supposed to. I don't know where the line is between becoming a better person based on examining a particular quality from somebody else versus doing that in a narcissistic way. I would imagine it's I would imagine that it is when there's no the motivation behind copying the behavior. Like if your motivation behind seeing somebody do something good, like I want to do that because I like this. Like, oh, I want to, I notice that when my dad gets angry, he fucking walks away for an hour and then he comes back and talks to my mom again. And you realize that behavior is because like he's just trying to cool himself down so he can have a productive conversation. That's great. But if you just look at somebody face value and you're like, I want to be popular like them, I'm going to steal their stuff, that's what I would imagine it would become like a narcissistic thing.
Are earnestly unique to me.
I actually somehow feel bad for this guy. Like he understands what he's admitting to.
Because his personality is constructed, and that sucks.
The narcissist constructs his sense of self, the false self.
Yeah, I'm a construct, whatever. I created myself.
Oh, nice.
Is the totality of the reflections of other people.
What are you doing? Why are you reflecting so much? What is this?
Imagine if every time you showed a little glimpse of your real personality, you opened up to someone, you got beaten down and told that you basically are like an evil, psychopathic, shitty person.
She is petrified that the world will have to know who she actually is.
She's trying to
I don't know. Okay. I think that some of these are a little disproportionate.
train herself in how can I behave where people aren't going to yell at me.
So what did she do? She became someone
she's become
likes. She became someone who she finds attractive, funny, and talented.
People seem to like her and say she's a nice person. Let me just absorb that personality and wear it like a skin suit for myself. You would resent the person who's being this authentically because you can't really relate to it. You're thinking like, why would anyone be this nice?
Yeah. Why does she not even have to try to exude this personality, whereas I have to fake it all the time? Yeah. Just so people will like me and continue to watch my stuff.
When confronted by overwhelming evidence of her guilt, of her hypocrisy at the very least, what Sssniperwolf didn't say was, okay, you got me, or, all right, listen, I don't mean to send so much hate towards Azzy. Guy,
I'm just waiting. Here's my thing. I'm a little bit upset that we're watching this. I'm upset with the Sssniperwolf saga specifically because I know I talked about how she's not the prettiest girl earlier, but I still want to see her making OnlyFans, and I want to just check it out. So I'm like, can you fall off enough and get into so much financial desperation that you need to make an OnlyFans? Because I'm curious, dude. You know what I mean? I'm tired of deep faking it. I want to see the real thing. I'm just kidding. I would never deep fake Sssniperwolf. Only Pokemon. No, I'm just kidding.
Guys, don't attack her anymore. Do not harass Azzy for me.
They will hurt others, exploit others, steal from others. And they don't have any remorse. They don't feel bad about it later.
Sssniperwolf's response to this video and to seeing all of the hate that she'd sent towards Azzy was not to apologize or tell her fans like not to go attack Azzy. She didn't admit that she copied her sometimes. There's nothing like that.
Sssniperwolf responded. Oh, trust Sssniperwolf to always respond.
So Sniper tries to come back. This was the most pathetic comeback of all comebacks.
I have a backup of videos and screenshots before she changed the thumbnails to make it look like I copied her.
That's a claim. Does she actually have proof of that? Because that would be interesting.
I have proof she copied my thumbnails, SEO, the way I speak, the joke.
I'd be a little hard pressed to believe that she went back and did that because she is so obsessed with you. But if she has proof of that, okay.
Jokes I make.
The way you're trying to manipulate this is fraud. This is fraud. I haven't had any. I haven't had any caffeine. I'm just losing my mind.
And then
does she actually prove it? Like, I'm curious.
It keeps going. It's like I have a screenshot. So if you upload the same video as me minutes after I upload on multiple occasions.
She's got the receipts, sis.
So she's like, oh, I got you, dead to rights, I caught you, right?
And those signatures and screenshots and receipts, sis, are this. Showing Azzy Land's video at the top with 9.4 wee Garvins. That is a lot of wee Garvin.
A community note then came out of
the fuck is a wee Garvin?
Nowhere with a big steaming revelation that said,
this doesn't prove anything.
Videos cited for evidence only have similar titles and don't contain the same thumbnail or clips.
Showcasing that this isn't exactly the slam dunk she thinks it is. It doesn't even use the same.
Oh, so is it potentially that okay.
Same clips, only the title is the same. And there's other examples of similar titles being shared between them.
This is
okay. So the accusation against Sssniperwolf, which seems to be proven at this point, is that she will like legitimately almost carbon copy an Azzy video, as well as like a lot of the aesthetics of like her as a person, etc. And her response is that Azzy would once they're now doing the same content. So as he started making the content, Sniperwolf wanted to do the same content, nothing wrong with that, but then like Carbon copied a lot of it. Weird. Once they're basically though both making the same content, they're now following similar trends, doing similar things. And so that to her is the same thing as the theft. That's ridiculous. Okay.
So embarrassing for her, and she gets dunked on in the comments here, and I'll show you that too.
This was the laziest comeback I have ever seen, dude.
The comments cooked her. The comments, everyone is replying with all kinds of screenshots of her just blatantly doing it.
I think it's safe to say that Nerd City and Azzy's countless receipts outweigh your weird receipts that are for some reason in Dutch, Leah?
All these were Garvin's, were stolen.
His video is so in-depth, there's no holes in it.
And based on everything in the Nerd City video, as well as a couple of other things that have been revealed, it really does seem like Sniperwolf directly tried to copy from Azzyland.
Sniperwolf just quadrupled, 10x down on this and said, no, Azzy has been copying from me.
Straight up hypocrite. Like, what do you want?
Now, they exposed this in the video that this is what she does, and she locked it. It's locked. She private. And this is what happened. This is how you know you winning.
And all she had to do is not respond at all. All you had to do is pull a Sunny V2 and not give a fuck and just not respond. It's a smart thing. It's really setting the stage for how a content creator should interact sometimes.
Azzy had uploaded a few minutes after Sniperwolf, and that, in Sniperwolf's mind, was proof that Azzy had copied the video from her.
Well, it just doesn't make any logical sense because like copying wouldn't be able to be done in like a minute. Especially if you're not if it's one thing if you're like filming something on stream and then somebody goes and catches wind of what you're talking about and then they decide to like film the same thing and then they release it at the same time because you've made the content live to everybody. But if you both are making offline content and then posting it, and it happens to be the same, like there's nothing more than that has to be like a fucking coincidence now.
Which makes no sense. Now, the reason that that's terrible proof that Azzy was copying from Sniperwolf is that you can't make an entire YouTube video in a few minutes. So there's no way she could have copied the theme of the video from her and uploaded instantly like that.
Unless there was a mole, an undercover mole, giving her all the information.
It just doesn't make any sense.
Not only a liar, but now you look dumb as hell.
Thankfully, the public could figure that out.
Leah completely deflects the fact that she's stealing someone else's voice and tries to play it off like others are actually the ones copying her.
She's been
That's
copying.
what I'm saying about Italians. They're always trying to take like fucking Tony Soprano's voice and stuff. You guys are all narcissists.
The way I talk for years, she's trying to convince people she's me. Sniperwolf is a crazy monster.
The narcissist will try to convince the victim that they are the actual abuser because of their reaction.
They make it seem like you are victimizing them.
That people have been doing this to me.
Stop it! You're living worse than a liar that's also a hypocrite.
If you are dealing with a narcissist and you become the target of their projection, they will try to convince you that you're at fault for something that they're doing. Or that you have some list of shortcomings to your
I have lots of shortcomings. Mostly long ones, though.
personality that are much more relevant to them.
They are accusing you
Let's just do this.
of the
I
very
like this.
thing that they do. It is profoundly disorienting when it
Jacking off too long.
gets aimed at you.
Gooning?
You and it's a family member.
Correct.
Or it's a spouse.
Projection happens with every single narcissist out there. It's one of the things that's a universal.
Narcissism and projection go hand in hand.
It's interesting. So are you saying that a narcissist is the more likely to accuse another person of being a narcissist? How poetic.
When a narcissist has a thought that contradicts their false self, they protect themselves immediately by directing it onto someone else.
The narcissist is desperately fighting to restructure what is happening to fit a pre-existing fantasy-based narrative of how incredibly amazing they are.
If they fail
I am pretty amazing.
at some task, if they are facing a public humiliation, their ego rejects the shame right away. They drop it onto somebody else.
If you work with a narcissist, everything that goes wrong is your fault and everything that goes right is their doing.
I was carrying
Exactly, dude.
my team and I was just yelling at them the whole time, cussing at everybody.
That's what I'm trying to explain to people. They just don't get it.
And at the end of the tournament, I was so mad because my team would not listen to me, and I got extremely pissed because we lost because of them.
They blame you for everything.
See, that's what I'm talking about. The teammate thing. And this is what I'm talking about. That's where you lose me when you're like, yeah, see, like you play a clip of, educated mental health professionals like Jordan Peterson explaining that narcissists will like rewrite history and whatnot. And like nothing's ever their fault unless things go well. Right. And then you play a clip of her being like, oh, we lost and it's my team's fault. I feel like that is such a normal behavior for people, and especially playing a competitive game, to be like, it's your fault. And until you later reflect and seeing how it is potentially your own fault. It's just so interesting. And of course, playing that clip gives you there's a heavy implication there that like that is your example of one way that she's a narcissist. And like that's, again, those are the moments that you lose me. It's a fucking video game, and it's such a normal thought to have of like losing and blaming your teammate for a lot of people, especially in the heat of the moment. And I feel like there's a difference between a heat of the moment reaction versus a more meaningful, like permanent reaction. You know what I mean? So I don't think that that's like narcissist like style behavior. I feel like it's normal. It's so normal that there are like memes all over TikTok of like, oh, whose fault is it? You know what I mean? And part of that comes to like when it comes to video games, like understanding how to play. Like I think one of the biggest things that might help people in general, really with anything, but especially like in a video game, is like being good enough to know when to do something, but also being good enough to know when to do nothing. You know, like if you're playing League and you're getting dumpstered in your lane, sometimes it's better off to just like fucking kind of sit under tower and try to freeze the wave and just do your best to just like have no impact on the game instead of a negative impact, right? But that comes with like a lot of like introspection, and that just is what happens when people are very competitive with each other in those spaces.
Everything. They can't apologize for anything. There is no accountability or responsibility whatsoever on their part.
Sssniperwolf is the queen of deflecting blame and avoiding responsibility.
There's a pattern. You see, she accuses people of doing things that she does to cover up her indiscretions.
Something that Sssniperwolf actively, comes at other girls for doing and calling them fake and calling them out for photoshopping when she in fact does it herself.
And she's of course now trying to gaslight people into making herself the victim.
She essentially just threw down the reverse Uno card and shifted all the blame back to him.
Well, this guy's been harassing me. What you did is harassment.
It's so sad when people have to constantly create drama to pay their bills. Bitch! You are the person that's creating drama. I can't, dude. I can't.
Sssniperwolf is just so clearly projecting. I mean, she's talking about the very thing she's been doing.
Yeah, she also accused me of faking my gameplay, and I'm like...
That is called projection. And yeah, there's some gaslighting in there.
It's very obvious I don't fake
projection.
My gameplay is dog shit. Like, if like if I was gonna fake my gameplay, I would pick good gameplay to fake.
Take a moment. Think about it and say, I know this is absolutely
Me too, man. My fucking gameplay is terrible.
untrue about me. But it's interesting that that person is making that accusation.
Even back in like 2019, people didn't actually believe Sssniperwolf was a real gamer.
Projection is a tell because when somebody...
That's just your sexism talking. I really have no idea if she is or isn't a gamer. You know, this is I really just don't know. People are like, oh, she was proven that she faked it. I haven't like explicitly seen it. I don't remember. And if I have, it doesn't matter to me because it's a fucking like loser on the internet. But like, I'm very apprehensive about where I get information from because like, when somebody does a bad thing or is a bad person, especially on the internet in a very sensationalized space or a space that like promotes sensationalization, everybody does it to some extent. Like even some of my, well, I don't know, some of my like titles can maybe be a little sensationalized, although I like to think that they're not necessarily, but you kind of like take things and run with them, even if it's not necessarily like proven. It could be. And I just don't know about it or whatever, but I take it with a grain of salt because everybody like will like bandwagon very heavily. And like I think this video is a little bit of proof of that. Like again, we're trying to call her a narcissist, so we're taking examples of her blaming her teammates for losing a game and being like, "See, this is an example of that." And it's like it's not. It's like a very normal behavior to engage in. You know, so I would have to see it. I don't care enough to see it because I don't care. Like it doesn't really matter. I don't think that she's a particularly good person. Whether she's faking her gameplay or not is like almost incredibly irrelevant to me. But it could be true. It could not be true. I don't give a shit. Like it's whatever. It's actually like almost completely irrelevant to the video topic. So
do something that's very untrue. Odds are it's because they're experiencing it or they're doing it.
The concept behind the Sssniperwolf YouTube channel was that Young would play.
Yeah, he said it. His ex said it in the lawsuit against her. Yeah, no, it could be true, or it might just not be. I don't know. It doesn't prove that it's a fact. It very well may be though.
Video games such as Call of Duty and or Metal Gear Rising, Revengeance, and record his gameplay.
You've been exposed!
Young would then prepare a script for each recording for Shalesh to read on camera while acting as though she was playing the recorded video footage. So he's saying it was all fake.
Remember that the narcissist is projecting that's something that's very uncomfortable about themselves or something that they're feeling onto you.
I noticed that she does this thing where it's like projecting, where there's something that she is guilty of and she will project it.
Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm bringing you one of my most epic ghost gameplays yet, and I get 113 kills and a chem strike, and yes, this is solo by the way.
She wasn't actually playing the game. He was doing the game playing. She was just providing the commentary.
Said lawsuit basically all but confirmed that the gaming content that she used to make was completely fake.
She is constantly pointing out other fake channels. She is
hoping, projecting. Oh,
it might be true.
She's been doing it since her.
You believe him? I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if they're dating for the longest time, like, it makes sense. Unless he had like this evil conspiracy, like, fucking motive of like, no, fuck this person. Like, I'm gonna fucking, you know. So it's very likely to be true. So.
Earliest videos.
He must ignore or deny certain thoughts. It's not me.
It's basically like psychological vomit. It doesn't feel good. You know, like when you eat some bad fish and it needs to get out of you, you throw it up.
Oh, you need a little gefilte fish.
And then you feel better.
Rewinding back to the start of the video, that's what the little comments meant. Maybe the red dress, the mirror that didn't belong in her house.
Doesn't really go with that.
The attack on Fortnite. Maybe it's all starting to make a little more sense. I suppose.
I was afraid to talk about this before, but like now I feel better.
Things that people have seen a million times.
Think of a million examples.
Yes.
Puzzled over.
Can you really think of a million examples, though?
You know, like this contradiction between the clear insecurity of a narcissist. Underneath this is someone who is insecure.
Oh.
The longer you hear them talk, the more you realize they're compensating for something.
Pay no attention to that man behind the curtain.
Are they compensating or compensating?
But the contradiction then is everything that they're saying and doing. I think that internally they have this world that's like this. And then there's this outer image, this persona that is completely the opposite. And how do they have the confidence to do that when they're insecure? It's a paradox. The more you learn about narcissism, the more you understand how that's possible and what's really happening. You might be less impressed by their grandiosity, maybe more sympathetic towards their vulnerability, and just maybe some admiration, some misplaced admiration is kind of reeled back in. When you understand, like, they're living in a world where they have such strong defenses that everything is getting routed off of them onto somebody else. They can never fail because their ego will not allow them to. So it's a fascinating thing that explains like so much. Like, what do we find interesting about celebrities? It's usually that they don't care. It's usually that they have some air of a lack of concern. So you see this behavior of like, wow, this person really doesn't give a fuck. I wish I didn't give a fuck. What you might be admiring is a defense mechanism.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're a popular person, you kind of need to have that defense mechanism. It'll trigger the fuck out of you. If you care too much as some kind of like a celebrity, micro celebrity or otherwise, you're just going to stress the fuck out of yourself. So.
Yeah. You know, I know that logically, but when you interact with an actual narcissist in person, it's pretty difficult.
A.
And I think one of the dangers of psychology is we can explain things.
A flat.
But we sometimes think, well, if you can explain it, then it's okay.
That's it.
What the fuck? We have to be able to hold in consciousness those two things. This is why they did it, and it is absolutely unacceptable.
Their behavior is what their behavior is.
Regardless of their backstory. We could explain it. Again, the minutia of it. It's not acceptable. Does that make sense? Just because we can explain something doesn't make it acceptable.
I just can't. I don't care if you secretly have low self-esteem and this is all a defense mechanism or armor type of thing, you know?
Pause. You gotta be kidding. The Wizard of Oz. Could you use a more worn-out metaphor?
You humbug!
I said malignant narcissist this whole time. I was only pretending not to understand the comments. On the next episode of Nerdline, psychopathy!
I knew he was a psychopath.
That's some psychopath shit.
This is maniacal psychopath.
That is some next level psychopath action.
What the fuck is a psychopath? Because I call people psychopaths sometimes, but I don't know what the actual is.
Brother, some level 1 psychopath behavior.
Person affected by chronic mental disorder with abnormal or violent social behavior. An unstable and aggressive person. Oh, is that it? Interesting.
It is! We joke! We use that word too loosely on the internet. I think Sniperwolf is mentally unwell.
She lies.
She steals.
She doxes.
She
she's just like Latino Heat. She lies, she cheats, she steals, baby.
threatens.
She bullies. She cheats. She skinwalks as popular women. And she farts on their small dogs.
Oh shit, I wish I was a small dog.
I mean, holy fuck. This is the person YouTube really love to put up.
Aren't y'all glad I grew up to be a
I mean, she pulls numbers. Of course, YouTube wants people to pull numbers. They don't give a fuck.
YouTuber and not a psychopath?
You are in the presence of an alligator. Keep your distance.
Alligator?
So, what's it like to be YouTube's dream come true?
Whose tits are these? You know what? We're getting distracted, brothers. We're getting distracted. We need to find the light. We need to find the light.
We're going in.
No thoughts.
Oh my god, there's actually a person in here? Oh, hey!
We gotta stay away from these terrible, sinful thoughts.
Irradiate bad behavior with a malignant narc nuke.
Is this Mama Max? What the fuck's happening at the end here?
Just like we've always thanked the people who supported us on Patreon at the producer tier, I want to thank the people who've minted skulls in season 2 and who've come.
All right, so what is this? What is it? Bitcoin or whatever that is? What the hell is it called? Schminglebang? I forgot. You know what I'm talking about. The monkeys?
By the Discord and who I've gotten to know. And these people are literally the producers.
Check this out. He's not going to see this coming with these, though. I own a picture of it now. I took a picture of my phone. Idiot.
Of the video that you just saw and the upcoming videos. I'll be more than happy to add more names and more avatars to these credits next time, and to hopefully get to know more of you, more like-minded people in the server. If you want to support us by minting a skull, go to Dead Avatars.
All right, go to deadavatars.project, and this is the end of the video. You know, if you want to check it out. You know, maybe. Well, this is his plug aspect of it.
.com. Connect a wallet.
Here's what I'm gonna do. I don't normally Hassan the video, but I was gonna like end it here, but it seems like this is basically his special thanks and plugs and stuff. So I'm gonna go pee, and I'm gonna get up and let this play because it's not part of the video, but it is like an advertisement for his thing. This way, his advertisement plays. I get to go pee. There's nothing to react to here. You know, I don't want to take that. I usually don't like taking that away from people. If I'm gonna react to their videos, the least I could do is this. You know, so I'm gonna play it at normal speed while I take a piss, and that's how we're gonna end the video. Okay, but don't fucking clip it and try to make it seem like I got up and just like walked away from the fucking video. I'm just trying to play the goddamn advertisement at the end. All right? And if any of you do that on Twitter, I'm going to ban you.
And then hit the big red button.
The beautiful shiny button.
The button, at least, is meant to look irresistible. Like the Ren and Stimpy button in Space Madness is what I was thinking.
Can he withstand the temptation to push the button that even now beckons him ever closer?
I have nothing to lose. Why not?
If you haven't been through a process like this, our best researcher, Ryan, has a little how-to post, that'll walk you through the basics. There are 175 skulls left to mint in Season 2, and buying one of those supports us directly. You've never heard me say, and I don't think you'll ever hear me say, that owning one of our skulls is going to make you rich. In fact, one of our principles so far has been to be the only asset of its kind that isn't saying things like that. If there are others, please let me know. But for the most part, I have been disappointed in seeing the other earliest demonstrations of technology like this. What I can tell you, though, with no reservation, is that if you are a fan of the channel, you'll like what comes with owning a skull. In exactly the same way that we didn't want to make t-shirts that you didn't get any use out of, I also don't want these skulls to be something that you don't get any use out of either. A few days ago, I asked the Discord, what's their favorite part of being in the server? For me, what I've had the most fun doing is after we come out with a video, probably tonight even, I'm going to play back this video with frequent pauses. Sometimes it takes like 4 hours to get through a 45-minute video if we're lucky. And, I'll talk about things that are still fresh in my mind about the production of the video. We've done the same thing, not only for our content and for episodes of podcasts that I've been on, but also we've watched content with other YouTubers.
Who are you going to kill? That was and is my biggest fear. Great job, man. Thank you so much.
One of the criticisms of people who have used technology like this, and there are numerous criticisms, obviously, some of them fair, some of them urban legend, really, myth. But one of the big criticisms is that they rushed into it with, poorly concepted out projects and with art that they didn't spend very much time on. Now, of course, I was trying to buck that trend, and I did it exactly the opposite. I spent more time than I should have thinking this through, thinking through the details of it, and also agonizing over the editing and the quality control to try to make this as interesting and as complex as I could, something that would unfold for many years to come and that I could build on top of forever. We set out to do something that we would be proud of forever. If you've watched this far and you're at least considering buying a shirt, thank you very much. Lots more to come. Talk to you guys soon.